just like to start the meeting off with a quick thank you to, it's been a tough week and really smoky around Novato, and I'd just like to thank all of our staff for making it happen this past several days and last week, all for our kids, and appreciate it. I very much do. All right, with that, we'll go to announcements of closed session.
Okay,
Debbie,
the board did
Trustee
meet
Butler?
in closed session this evening. The first item was pursuant to Government Code 54956.9, conference with legal counsel pending litigation, Coalition to Save San Marin versus Nevada Unified School District, Marin County Superior Court case number civil case 1702295. It was an update to the board. The second item was in pursuant to Government Code 54957 and 54957.6, conference with labor negotiator Chris Koska, Assistant Superintendent Human Resources, Employees Organization, Nevada Federation of Teachers, otherwise known as NFT. We gave direction to staff. And the third item was in pursuant to Government Code 54957 and 54957.6, conference with labor negotiator Chris Koska, Assistant Superintendent Human Resources, Employees Organization, California School Employees Association, otherwise known as CSEA, and we were provided an update to the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, on to item 7, approval of tonight's agenda, and I would like to say, if it's okay with the rest of the board, I'd like to move our second staff report, which is 13B. I'd like to move it up in front of 13A, so it would become in effect 13A. Agreeable? Okay. With that, I would ask if I could get a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move the order of business as revised, moving 13B above 13A.
Okay, thank
Second.
you. Trustee Miller and Trustee Scott, and all in favor. That is approved, 6 in favor, 1 absent, and I should say that Greg Mack will be a few minutes late to tonight's meeting. On to public comment on consent agenda. I have no blue cards, so we'll move on to approval of the consent agenda. And would anyone like to either pull something from tonight's agenda or approve it?
I'm prepared to move the consent agenda as is.
Okay, Trustee.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. All in favor? That passes 6 in favor, 1 absent. And now we're on to our student presentation. And Lou Sutton Elementary School, and Jennifer Dudley and will be presenting, and Bonnie Barron, regarding our Junior Engineer Aerospace Challenge. Exciting.
Good evening, School Board and Superintendent Hogeboom. Thank you for giving our students the opportunity to show off their work on our school-wide Junior Aerospace Engineering Challenge that they've been working on for the past month.
Our student leaders tonight will be sharing about this process, which culminated today. Before they present, I would like to introduce our 2 teachers who organized and led this STEM challenge. These awesome teachers kicked off our school-wide experience by bringing buddy classes, our buddy classes together in our maker space. So tonight I'd like to recognize 5th grade teacher Kate Manser and 4th grade teacher Pam Stutzman.
Hi, it's so nice to be here. My name's Kate Manser. I am a 5th grade teacher at Lou Sutton and one of the coordinators for this pretty special event that we have now been having for 3 years. My partner in crime, one of my dear friends, but also a 4th grade teacher at Lou Sutton, Pam Stutzman, and I were really inspired by this. About 3 years ago, we attended a conference, and we were sitting in this session and we looked at each other and I could see the wheels turning in Pam's head and my head, and we really wanted to bring the idea of a meaningful school-wide student center project that we would inspire all Lou Sutton students to be creative and resourceful engineers who would work to solve a NASA-like problem. So we are happy to have with us tonight the real stars of the presentation. Pam's going to introduce to you a few of our Lou Sutton Junior engineers who will be sharing their own experiences and thoughts about this school-wide project.
This is my friend Laura Stoddard. You can say your name over here. And we have Eliza Stickle. We have Miles Murphy, Helena Matson, and Declan Field. And they're going to do the complete presentation, and we're just here as backup and to help answer any questions. Who's on? You are.
The Next Generation Science Standards Framework identifies the practices of science and engineering as essential for all students to learn primarily, asking questions for science and defining problems for engineering, developing and using models, planning and carrying out investigations. The questions that the students were given were, what design will travel the farthest distance, fly the highest, or can protect an astronaut? The astronaut is an astronaut in an egg form.
We all used the engineering design process for this project. Ask, what is the problem? Imagine, what are some solutions? What are possible restrictions or constraints? Plan. Make a model, make a materials list. Create. Follow your plan and make it. Test out your design. Improve. What works? What doesn't? Change your design to make it better. Test it out. All students use our school makerspace so that everyone had access to the same resources and engineering variables could be limited. We could be limited.
And Eliza's going to actually pass out the plan so you can see what the kids did. Yeah, you can start right over there. Thank you.
The real intent this year wasn't final product. It was process. The NGSS is quite big on that, the new standards. Sorry, you guys. The NGSS is really big on process, not final product. And so we really encourage the kids to focus on the work up to the day of celebration, which was today, the launch day. And that for us was a real big shift. In years past, we'd actually had this be potentially an at-home project, and we felt that bringing it to our community, to our makerspace, and really allowing students the freedom and the time to design and plan and retest and test was really at the heart of our approach with this project.
Engineers all around Lou Sutton spent many days designing their entire of the challenge. Improve. Once students create their project, it was time to test. Students tested again and again. Engineers didn't start all over when designs struggled or failed. They just tried to improve the original design. Upper grade students recorded test data and using data decided if small changes to designs to make improvements. For me, I really enjoyed this part of the process. I liked having a chance of test, see what happens, then make any changes that could help me design even more successfully. I personally tested my design at least 8 times, and each time I had a problem and I had to redo it. But I never gave up. I kept thinking of ways to improve.
And today was launch day. Even after the smoky week and everybody being inside, we all got together outside at Lou Sutton today. and we broke into 3 giant groups. They were all buddy groups, so they were mixed ages. We had kindergartners and second graders together, or third graders, and fourth graders, and first graders, and fifth graders with somebody. we were all mixed levels, and I think that my favorite part of this year versus other years that we've done this is that I think that we achieved our goal of teaching the kids to focus on the engineering practice and not the product, because when we all got together, it wasn't really about their creation, it was about making their creation. So we had them sit, you can see there's Eliza looking very cute over there with her buddy. But we had them sit with their buddies, and the big kids thought of questions to ask the younger students. Do you remember any of the questions? Right, what improvements did you make after your first trial? I think they talked about, we talked about the materials. They asked about the different materials and why they chose the materials they did. And out of our hour outside, I would say that a solid 35 minutes was just spent on scientific discourse, just talking about it. And so that really kind of solidified the idea of engineering is a process rather than just a product. So this is just a couple of our, show you a couple of slides with some of the products from today and the motion from today. Very cute. You guys want to hold up some of the... And my friend Miles is going to tell you about a couple of the creations he saw. Go ahead.
I saw some cool creations like this one and this one, and I saw some other cool ones. They were really cool and interesting. The one that really stood out to me was one with like 3 balloons, and it had like a flat bottom, and it landed exactly, I think, like they wanted it to be like landing. And I thought it was a really interesting one. I just really thought, and it caught my attention. And I thought some other ones were cool, like one had some wings to keep it from hitting the ground so hard. And then and this is it, and it's pretty cool.
That was a kindergartner who made this design, along with a buddy. And when she was so excited, she tossed it off the play structure, and it's a whirlybird. And we talked a lot about gravity is always going to be an obstacle with any kind of aeronautical design. And there are other things that we found when we were outside doing it today. But when she dropped hers off, it actually spun like, well, I'm not that high, but spun like a whirlybird down, which was unexpected. So we all learned that needing to slow things down if you were going to have a successful surface landing was something that we would need to continue to engineer further. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah. This is one of my friends, and she really labeled it. She did front for here and back here, and it was really cool how she put this little container, and she really did well on it. I really liked it.
So why don't you all take one and you can show them up close so they can kind of see. You can walk around so they can see some of the different designs.
There were some amazing launcher ones too, although we didn't want to potentially do any damage to your lovely roof tonight. But we had some that went, I would say in my group, a good 50 feet that got up that high. A lot of good slingshot approaches to launching.
Thanks. Yeah. And if anybody had any quick questions, if I could gather all the kids together here in the middle.
Okay, that wraps it up. That was awesome.
Did anybody have
That
any
was
questions
exciting.
for the kids?
I know we love the show and tell. I love looking at those. Any questions or comments?
I just have a
Trustee
comment for the teachers. I went and saw Creating Curiosity yesterday, and this is what this is all about. It was, so
Exactly.
this is perfect tie-in, and that was the best documentary I had seen.
Absolutely.
But it really shows what we're trying to achieve in the classroom, and it's not just sitting in front with your book anymore, and we know that, and it was just good for me as a trustee to know that that is happening here in our district. So I know it is, but to see it actually in process and actually seeing the students doing their math or their science, it was great.
And we
Thank
looked,
you
we looked
for
at
that.
today, we looked at today as a celebration of the learning rather than the judgment of the learning. It was a celebration of the process that they had gone through,
Yeah,
so,
right,
yeah.
great.
All right.
Any
Jeffrey,
other
I know you're excited about this.
Oh,
So,
yes.
Look at that smile.
I love STEM projects. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I just love any kind of project. So I'm just curious, were they given certain designs, or did most of them come up with their own?
Well, they did have a choice. They either could do the astronaut. They made up what they wanted to do, and most of them wanted to do the astronaut to keep their little egg astronaut safe. And so they all choose, like mine was the highest. Some people did the astronaut so it wouldn't fall, and then the farthest, and a lot of people. And then we spread up and see who went the highest and whose astronaut didn't break and things like that. No, we just came up with our idea with the paper that Eliza put out. We drew our idea, and then on the back we said what materials we need, and then we went shopping to go get our supplies.
And tell them where we got all of our supplies.
We got all our supplies from our makerspace that we had last year, and our grand opening was last year, and there's so many other materials in it, and you couldn't build it at home. You can only build it at school, so you don't get help from your parents or anyone. So it's only your design.
We know how that goes with parents.
Yeah, we know that goes with the diorama.
Any other questions?
Anybody else? Comments, questions? Trustee Scott?
Just a comment. I just want to congratulate all of you. You guys did an amazing job, and the process sounds super exciting, and it looks like there was a lot of learning going on. And I just want to really commend you guys. You guys did a great job, and teachers and staff, and I can't wait to come check out your makerspace. It sounds so cool. I'll have to check it out.
Thank you, boys and girls, teachers, principals. Okay, a quick photo, and I have a question. Some of you are wearing NASA shirts. Some of you are wearing chili cook-off. Is that hint?
Advertising for our next big event.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
November, when is it, you guys? Our chili cook-off. November 4th.
All right.
supposed to be this weekend, but it was because
Oh, of course.
postponed, so.
Thank you again for coming, you guys. That was exciting. That was. All right, so we're on to item 11 of our agenda this evening, and that would be for announcements from not only the trustees, student trustees, and the superintendent, but I'd like to start with Jeffrey. Welcome.
All right, thank you. So, we had an interesting last few weeks, but I'll start with the shadow days. So the shadow days were canceled due to the fires on Thursday and Friday, and the students were basically given the opportunity to visit classes and speak with students and the staff based on their special interests. So like STEM, the science classes, the math classes, things like that. The students will visit 4 academic classes, so their science, their math, their English, and history class. And the shadow days will take place on November 2nd and 3rd. We'll have our 9th grade parent night on Wednesday. It's going to be at 6:30 at the library, and it's going to go through graduation requirements, college entrance requirements, and how to get the most out of high school, attendance, and school behavior policies. We're also having our we're going to get a lot of students in, so we're just going to go through the 8th grade too. So incoming 8th graders family night. So they're going to have the STEM makerspace. They're going to talk about that. They're going to talk about our Smart Center, which is the art program center, and our athletics and our mini gym. The PSAT was given to all the 11th grade students, and based off unofficial student feedback, it went pretty well. Our fall musical is on October 10th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 27th, 28th, and 29th, and is the Addams Family. And on November 1st, we have our rock band concert. Financial Aid Week is hosted by 10,000 Degrees this week. It's on the 23rd and 26th. There's going to be a parent meeting from 6 to 8 p.m. on Monday, and review of the FAFSA completion night on the 26th. Both of them will be from 6 to 8 at the library. For our athletics, MCAL season is slowly winding down. Volleyball and football have their track playoffs. Football is running for an MCAL championship. And on a bad note, we lost one of our best teachers, Mr. Pitty. The San Marino high school community was saddened by the loss of Mr. Pitty. He was a teacher, a coach, a mentor, and a friend to all. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Trustee Miller, no. Trustee Nell.
I'll just take advantage of this announcement to report out on my JLAC committee duties. We met Wednesday of this week, and we were privileged to have our Superintendent Hogeboom there, and as well as Trustee Butler also attended. We covered the usual things, and we were actually given a list of current legislation that's passed and pending, and won't go into too much detail. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it neutral. Typical
We'll hear the good.
governmental process. Sounds like us, huh?
Yeah.
So, I'll have that sheet distributed to all of you, so you have a chance to look at that. In addition to that, we're planning our lobbying trip to Sacramento, and prior to that trip, we usually put together a list of priorities for the county, and I'll be sharing that with you. And if you guys would like to critique, add, or be part of that process, you're welcome to participate.
And that's also open to student trustees, is that correct?
Absolutely, yes. We do invite students on every year. If you'd like to go to Sacramento with us, contact. I'm sure I know the counselors know about it, et cetera, and but we'd be happy to have you.
Thank you, Trustee Nell. Trustee Aguilar?
Well, first of all, I wanted to thank the staff for all the hard work that they've gone through and they showed during this whole week. It's been a difficult week for everybody, whether we were affected or not, and think that there were a lot of lessons learned also, and hopefully we are always improving in the preparedness scenarios, and hope that we're just taking notes, and hope that even though we weren't affected directly here in Novato, we want to be able to be prepared. My heart goes to those that were affected, and now with the fires also came opportunities, and there's coming opportunities for people to volunteer. Some of us have already done volunteer work. Some of us will continue to do volunteer work, and this week especially, there's opportunities for even our students to go to Santa Rosa, and there's information about that if you want to know. Hoping that our graduate hours can also apply, and we get to serve, and also earn community hours, and so that's in progress, I'm assuming. So again, thank you to all that worked so hard, and communication was wonderful, so I really appreciate that. This week, I attended the Golden Bell Committee, and the celebration for this year will be May 24th at Dominican University, and that's always a wonderful event. Now, this morning, last week, Michelle Sheehan, co-chair of Bully Prevention Committee, and myself, we attended the city council meeting, and we received a proclamation for the Bully Prevention Month, and it's always a privilege to receive this for the hard work that Novato has done in this area. So I can pass it. You want to see this? And also this morning, Trustee Scott, Michelle Shahan, and myself, we received another proclamation from the Board of Supervisors, Jerry Arnold, for our Novato work and for the bully prevention. And she expressed gratitude, and she expressed a lot of the importance of this work. And so hoping that we continue with this. And here's another one, and we can share. Okay. And so now we are also hoping to hear soon regarding NUSD bully survey from last spring, and looking forward to how we can best support NUSD in bully prevention. So that's it.
Great. Thank you very much. You've been,
So, can I ask the student trustee a question? You were commenting on your comments about 10,000 degrees and them coming over and helping with the FASFA. Is that something you're going to be attending?
Unfortunately, I think I'm going to be busy that night. But
Okay.
I'm an avid, so I've had some of these presentations have been in my class, so I've been exposed to a lot of these things. So the
Okay.
FAFSA, what's it called? Trying to remember the one for the military. I did that one.
Okay.
The PSAT, the ACT, we take almost every test in AVID. And this is just one of the things I've done.
Okay. If it's possible, if you have a friend that is going, in the next time we meet, I would like to hear some feedback in terms of those that have attended and maybe the numbers that have attended, and just some overall questioning whether or not they're getting the information they need. Is it helpful? Is there anything we can do better? Just looking to improve that process. I'm glad to hear you tell me that there's other avenues within your classroom that you're hearing about this information as well. So thank you for reporting out on that. And as Maria said, we did receive the proclamation this morning from the Board of Supervisors. So that was wonderful. Thank you, Maria, for including me on that. I appreciate that. I also have been helping out in some of the shelters, and I just want to thank our first responders, our teachers, our staff. I know a lot of our staff live up north, so this has been a very trying time on families. My heart just goes out to them, and I'm hoping that moving forward, we can just all really help one another. They're going to need continuous resources and continuous volunteerism to help them pull out. It's just devastating, Thank you.
thank you. Trustee Butler.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just add on, thank you to Jim and Leslie for handling the whole week and the communication. Communication's a big piece of that, and you covered all the avenues, I felt. Every time I was like, oh, where's an email? Boop, there it'd be. So as a parent, I felt very satisfied in the communication, so thank you very much. You did a great job and really well, so thank you. A couple of the things I did attend was I sit on the Efficiency and Effectiveness Committee or collaboration. Jim's on there now. It's a countywide collaboration with trustees and superintendents on efficiency and effectiveness. So how do we share resources? How do we share work that we do amongst our districts? Is there any sharing that we can do to help with cost? And we did this, I've been on it for 5 or 6 years now, and it kind of went into a lull, and now it's back up again. And one of the things we're going to start off on each meeting is just having one of the collaboratives come and just talk with us and just give us an idea of what they're doing. So like this last week was about emergency preparedness. So what are we doing countywide emergency preparedness? Where do we sit at the table at the county level, at the district level? So that was great conversation, is right, to get an update on that. And then for this part of, for this group here, that's a very small group, but we're looking at housing, teacher housing amongst the county, and where do we all fall in that as different districts, different sizes of districts, different needs. So we're starting that conversation. We did a little bit of that last year, collecting some data points, and we'll continue that conversation. The other thing I did, I stopped by at JLAC, and since it's the same day, I was able to do both things. But one of the things was that bill that was out there about late start, everybody starting at 8:30. everybody across the board, no matter what district, every district would start at 8:30. That did fail. And so that, but they potentially see another bill maybe coming forward in January at some point. And then yesterday, like I mentioned with Lou Sutton here, I went and saw Creating Curiosity, which is I don't know if everybody's, I'd only heard it through an e-blast through Sinaloa. Sinaloa had it on their e-blast. It's a Marin County Office of Education with Eileen Smith putting it all together. It's a documentary. It's about an hour and 10 minutes on curiosity, creating curiosity within the county. And a lot of our schools in our district were represented. Lou Sutton, Olive, Loma Verde, the biotech at San Marin was on there. And it's showing our teachers and our students in the classroom and what they're doing. And they're not just sitting at desks with a lecture. It's getting it's not about finding the answer. And I know we always say that, and we always say that we're doing that, but it was just so good to see it on this movie. And we do try to see that if we go to a classroom during the day, but it was a great highlight of math and science. And so somehow we need to get to show that here in this district. I think they're gonna make it available. So I recommend all of us to see that. It was at the Smith at San Rafael Film Center. They rented it out, I guess, and I don't know how, I just came across it. And then
That would be great to see.
yeah, it would be really good.
I wonder if they're putting
And
a
I'm
link-
sorry I didn't send it off to you guys. I don't know why I didn't do that.
What were you thinking?
I know. I saw it, I booked a ticket, and that was the end of that, and then it was that. So it was just really good. Okay, thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, good information. Trustee Miller, did you want to, I'm going to circle back.
Comment to offer. Earlier this week, I think it was Monday, I had a conversation with Superintendent Hogaboom, and given the activities that were going Monday and Tuesday, the conversation was around looking to do a survey of our school sites and fire safety and emergency preparedness, particularly fire safety. And I appreciate the superintendent took kindly to that thought. And I suspect he's going to be asking the fire department to come and help us make sure if there's lessons learned from these recent events, we implement them here. So I wanted to thank Superintendent Hogaboom for being open to what seemed to me like a great idea, and make our community safer and better.
Thank you, great idea.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, and on to, I don't have any comments on to Superintendent Hogaboom.
Yeah, just to follow up on some of the comments from last week. So just really want to thank our staff, our teachers, and our classified for teaching during a tough week. Again, we all know somebody who's been affected by the fires, and when, it's hard to come and teach when you're maybe being evacuated from your house. So, but our teachers came. Our absence rate in general was actually pretty good. So just working together with everybody, I think, was really important. I really appreciate the support from Mary Jane Burke and the county. Leslie did a great job, and Gladys, but also in particular Jennifer Larson, Michelle Stevens, and Melissa Diaz kind of made a little war room back in there with the assistant superintendents trying to work out all the substitutes, going out to all the schools, talking about the air quality index. Should we close schools? Should we stay open? How bad did the air have to get before we close? Why weren't we closing? I mean, there was just a lot of coordination that was going on. This county, more than any county I've ever been in, works together. And so that's one of the reasons I love being in Marin. And Mary Jane does a great job of having people work together. So we're all learning about that. I mean, who knew what the air quality index was? And now we monitor on a daily basis. And today was, 159 or whatever. So we'll be getting some guidelines out. I mean, there are some guidelines already because I'm a Cal fan and they play Washington State. And I was wondering if they were going to cancel on Friday. So I guess 200 is a magical number, whether they cancel at least college games or not. So we all learned a lot. We will be doing some debrief. Ross, thanks for the suggestion about what you already mentioned about fire inspections and all that, but there's a lot to learn. So we're going to take some time and kind of debrief all that next week. But it was just good to work together with everybody around that. So thanks for everybody's help. And finally, we have our Budget Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow night. So that's at 6 o'clock. So obviously we're in some tough budget times, and we're going to need everybody's help and input for areas where we can cut back to get rid of our budget deficit. So Yancey, thanks for putting that together. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Hogaboom. All right, so with that, We'll move on to item 12, non-agenda public comment. I have one. Come on up, Aaron. One, and Aaron Fix, welcome. And anybody else that would like to speak and address the board, please fill out a blue card and bring it forward.
Thank you. So I'm Aaron Fix, President, Nevada Federation of Teachers. Thanks for the kind words and appreciation. I'm hoping that we can see a little bit of that appreciation at the negotiating table too. As you probably know, we have not been making great movement lately. At the last meeting, really the only thing that was on the table were teacher cuts to increase teacher salaries. So it's kind of an auto cannibalization. So that didn't really feel like movement to me. That was just us taking money from us. We've agreed on some comparable districts, and we've agreed that we're trying to make some motion to get teachers to the average of those districts. Currently, we are 4% behind, and our top paid admin are at 4% above. And so I always like to say equity starts at home, and we'd like to see that addressed. Currently, what's on the table will put us behind, right? So the goal was, no, we're not necessarily going to get to 100% in a year or even 2 years, but we want to see a pathway there. And where we're currently at is going to put us back another percent probably. And so I know that it's a tough time. We have declining enrollment. We have less money from the state. We have STRS and PERS increases. But we knew these things were coming, right? This is not a surprise. We've seen this for years down the road, and yet we have increased spending on administrator salaries, number of administrators, consultants, administrative budget, and so we're not seeing the money come into the classroom. Where was I going with that? I mean, that's really sort of how teachers are feeling, that the morale is low and we're not making the progress we want to see. We have 7 teachers on special assignment. That's close to $700,000, about $680,000. That's a luxury. We have declining enrollment means we have fewer teachers, and I've never fought that. I've always felt that we should staff, right? I've never fought to hold on to jobs and fought layoffs. If we have fewer students, we need fewer teachers. We should staff appropriately. But what I'm seeing is declining enrollment, less money from the state, STRS and PERS increases, right? So less students, less money, less teachers, more admin. And that's the pattern that's really disturbing to me, especially when we have admin being paid more and teachers being less. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. And one more. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Irma Mannion, and I work at Loma Verde Elementary School. And I'm here to speak in behalf of my staff. At Loma Verde, we have a certificated staff of 22. Out of those 22, 11 live outside of Novato. They live north, east, south, because they cannot afford to raise their family here. Out of the 11 that do live in Novato, 2 of them live with their parents, and these are not boomerang children. They've been there, that's a necessity for them. In addition, those that, of the other 9, some cannot afford to purchase a home. Trustee Butler was talking about affordability. At the rents, as you know, are a townhouse, 3-bedroom to bath for a family. They're $3,500. A house, a single-family home is $3,500 and more. So this is a crisis where our staff doesn't have the luxury of living in the community that they work in. I feel very fortunate that I am able to live here. It was a miracle that I was able to purchase my townhouse a few years ago. That was a miracle. I would be in the same shoes as they are. So I'd like for you to consider that with the money, with the budgets and everything else. And I'm on the budget committee, so I will be happy to look at all the numbers. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Okay, seeing no other comments, we'll move on to item 13, what is now 13A, Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium. It's SBAC, Student Achievement Results, and Yvonne Scheidez will be presenting.
All right, good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. So right about now, every school board in the state is getting the same presentation regarding the SBAC scores. I do want to make it very clear that this is only one measure that we use in our district to see our student achievement. At the last board meeting on October 3rd, our superintendent presented to you data that is more everyday, day-to-day things that we use for teaching and learning, such as our MAP scores for reading, writing, for math, our MARS scores. We also such as also the AP scores that the students prepare for, attendance, discipline, suspensions. So there's a lot of data that we have. So again, I just want to make it very clear that this is only one measure, summative measure that we have with the state of California. So today, I'm going to give you the results of the Smarter Balance Assessment. Many people refer to it as a CASP. The CASP is actually has many other assessments under it. So the CASP has the California Science Test, and then it has three other tests. The SBAC is one test of the CASP. So when you hear CASP, SBAC, it's the same thing. But for me, it's not really the same thing. For me, SBAC is one assessment under the CASP. It might sound a little confusing, but you'll hear about it more and more every year. So one thing is, here's the website where we got all the information. Anybody's welcome to go online and visit that website to verify, to see more data and take a deeper dive into the results. So today, we're going to be looking at our students district-wide, grades 3 through 8, and also 11th grade. The one thing I want to let you know is I believe you have the first PowerPoint that I sent. That's about 37 slides. There's not 37 slides in my presentation. There's only about 15. So I shrunk it down. But the public does have the full PowerPoint in the board agenda, which is on the website. So this assessment, this is now our third year taking this assessment along with all the other districts. It's computer-based and adaptive, as you know. One thing is we have, it's only 3 years, so it's fairly new to us. The one thing that I'm very excited about is our students, as we go one to world, and the students being able to now have more practice and exposure to the device, because the assessment is taken on a device. So if you're a student that uses a device 5 times a year, and then you're taking that assessment, even to maneuver this mouse or a mouse pad, it's difficult when they're asking you to put a graph together on the assessment, which I know because I tried the 8th grade one. And it was pretty difficult just maneuvering the mouse or the mouse pad. So moving forward, I think as our students are getting more exposure, more comfortable with the devices and laptops, this is going to help out as well, just taking the tests on. So the tests, what it does, it requires our students to do 3 main things: to think critically, write analytically, and explain how they solve problems. For the 2 parts of the test, for the English language arts, the 3 areas of performance that it really looks at, and it's the same for every grade, is around reading, writing, listening, and then this is where project-based learning really helps us out. It's through the research and inquiry performance, which is throughout every grade. So they're really looking at that research and inquiry on how our students are finding and presenting information. For math, they're really looking at concepts and procedures, problem solving and modeling, and data analysis, and communicating reasoning. So those are the areas of performance, and that's the same for every assessment and every grade. So these are the 4 different levels. So the 4 different levels, back with the old tests, you probably had below basic, far below basic. Those, so they went from 5 levels now to 4 levels. So these are the new levels. The one thing to know is that under each of these levels, there's something called scale scores that go from 1,000, to I don't know, like 3,000. So it's a scale score, and those scales increase, and that's very important for our students, for our teachers, to get to know their students more. So the reports, these are what we send home to our families. So Debbie, I'm not sure, you have a junior right now? You probably saw this, and so these are what the student reports look like, and it really goes into detail where they met, where were they below. So very helpful, and all of our sites have access to these. They're on Aries as well. So moving forward, so for 3 years in a row, our district has performed above the state average in every grade in both English language arts and math. So this is good news. This is what you never want to be below the state average. It just doesn't look good, especially if you live in the most expensive county in California. So, but it's also very important for our schools to take this very seriously, because you will notice that some of our schools are performing below the state average. So we do got some work to do in this area. So I am going to just provide a couple information on tables. It's a lot of data, but here we go. Let's jump in. So this right here is for elementary. These are for students that met or exceeded the standard. So what you see here for grades 3 through 5 at the state level, it's pretty much holding steady for the past 2 years at 45%. You do see a decline in our scores. And then you have the different school sites there. For Hamilton, we did take out, because Hamilton's a K-8 school, so we took out the grades 3, 4, 5. So what you see here for Hamilton and for Novato Charter is only for grades 3, 4, 5. So we wanted to be very differentiation because of how the state will put them all together, grades 3 through 8. So we really wanted to take a good look. We do have some good news at 2 of our schools. They did make growth from 2016 to 2017. It's always nice to see growth. That's what we want to see. The one thing that the state always looks at is for a 3% growth. So if you're making a 3% growth annually, that's considered good in the state's eyes, a 3% growth. This one is for elementary math. Again, you see at the state level, there's pretty much 39-40. As a district, we did go down in math for elementary. And then you have our different sites there. The one thing is that we're doing as a district, and you're going to hear a little bit more after my presentation. I think that's why we did the switch. Nice. Is so that you hear more about what we're going to be doing moving forward with math, specifically in this case at the secondary level around algebra, and then at secondary level. Right here, what you see also is that we are actually now going with our committees. It's called the District Leadership Math Committee, really looking at data, looking at our practices, our strategies, common formative assessments, which you'll also hear more about later on. So taking a look at what's going on here, but also looking at what we call the MARS task, because the MARS tasks go back to assessing the different performance areas that I mentioned earlier for math. This is for English language arts. Now we went into secondary schools. So again, for Hamilton, this is only their grades 6, 7, 8 for secondary schools for English language arts. For the high schools, you see the results there. I am going to share some pretty cool news about our high schools English scores later on. That's pretty impressive. Again, just the state scores are holding steady, and we did decline in grades 6, 7, 8. So now these are math scores, again, for this, for secondary schools. You know, and as you can look at the data, it's all over the place. Normally, you like to see different trends. And what you're going to be hearing from our principals at the next board meeting in November 7th, that you're going to hear from our secondary schools regarding what is their strategies, their next steps, their action steps that they've come up with their site leadership teams, with their school site councils, their ELAC, around, again, increasing and making growth. This right here is by cohorts. So this one is actually the first time I think we've done this, is looking at a cohort. So this is 3 years of data, because the test has only been around for 3 years. So in 2015, what you see here, so you see the third graders, the same kids, it's the same kids going from 3rd grade to 4th grade to 5th grade. So these are the same kids, so that same cohort moving along. Again, ideally we'd like to see growth every year. You do see growth at the state level in 3rd grade, 38, 44, 46. With us, you go 46, 52, 48. So next year we're going to go up based on that trend, right? So in 6th grade, again, not seeing a whole lot of trends, but this is the same kids of cohorts. You do see a trend, and here in math, there is a increase from 2016, 2017, and 6th to 7th grade. So these 5th graders went from 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. Next year, they'll be 8th graders. Again, the scores are, so they're just not too consistent. So perhaps for the 4th year and the 5th year, we will be able to see more trends as the students go to 6th grade, 7th grade, and then 8th grade. So we do have quite a bit to see what are the different factors of what's happening at different sites. So this is for English language arts for Marin County, California. So one thing is, I know usually our board member, Greg Mack, likes to see the Marin County. I believe all of you do, but he somehow always asks the same question. How do we compare to the county? So one here is, you see our 11th graders outperform the county. So this is great news to see our juniors at the high school 2 years in a row outperforming the other high schools in Marin County. Here's our math scores. Again, you'll notice that we did all grades perform above the state average. But the one thing that is we got work to do, is that we did decrease our scores in math at every grade as well. So again, we want to turn that around and look at what's going on in math at every grade level. So this one's looking at our student groups, and what you see here is our achievement gap. So that's why it's very important that you adopted the equity imperative, what really addresses this achievement gap here between all students, white students, and then our different student groups such as Latino, economic disadvantage. One thing is, our students with IEPs, special education, are performing above the state average. So that's nice to see that our students with IEPs are doing better than the state. And one thing that this morning in cabinet, we're looking at is our redesignated students. So we felt that it was important for you all to know that our English learners, although they're not performing that high, and we're just talking about, what's the word, the oxymoron or something like that, to say you're an English learner, we want you to be fluent when you're still learning English. We're trying to figure out why that number is so low, and we have different ideas why. We do have a high number of newcomers. We also have students that reclassify. In some districts throughout the state, they have what they call long-term English learners. So you, as a long-term English learner, you could be in 8th grade, still be an English learner, speaking English almost fluently, but have not been redesignated. So your scores still count as an English learner. So that's how you see a higher score at the state level because of the long-term English learners. And in order to get redesignated, you have to meet different criteria. There's a whole list of criteria to redesignate. It's not just based off one measure, but multiple measures. But it's good to see that our students, as they transition to redesignated, are performing and making growth above the 3% they see when they were English learners. So moving forward, we do have a large discrepancy between our achievement levels of our Latino students and students of low-income households, as well as English learners. So one thing that you're going to hear at the next board meeting is, what are we doing at the school sites? What are the best practices and strategies that we're implementing? What are we doing with the LCAP, specifically around the supplemental funds? As you know, the supplemental funds are to go above and beyond providing resources to our English learners, our low income, our foster youth students. And you'll see these reflected in the site plans for student achievement that are currently our sites are working on. Also, further analysis will be done by our sites. For example, this Friday, we are hosting, Jim put together a deep data dive for this Friday from 1 to 3 with our principals. We're inviting Jan Derby, Eileen Smith, and some of our other coaches to come on over to identify what we're going to be what data we're looking at, and really go deep into the data to come up with strategies and specifically implementation strategies that we're going to implement at the sites or grade levels. So this, you'll hear more about it in November and December. Moving forward, the presentation that you're going to hear next is going to be a little more about math and just math. But I do want to say that in terms of our English scores, at the site level, at the district level, we have quite a bit of different committees in where we're looking at, the Common Core has changed instruction drastically. So we're also looking at a curriculum adoption that our ELA committee is looking at. Last year, the board approved 45 minutes of designated ELD. We got quite a bit of work to do there at some of our sites. We're using a Kevin Clark consultant to help with those strategies. So right now, we definitely are doing a lot. So I think at this point, we really need to focus on what we're doing and go deeper and really monitor the effectiveness of our strategies. Questions or comments?
Thanks, Yvonne. Trustee Miller.
Thank you. So I haven't had a chance to study these at great depth, but it seems like we're going backwards in many of our groups. We pointed out some where there's progress. So I would love to have an opportunity to talk to you about this at some later time, but it's when is the campus by campus work session? This Friday or next Friday? This Friday. Yeah, I know it's concerning to see some of those numbers, and I sort of don't have any public comment for them right now, but I'd like to dig deeper and come to understand how that happened. So thank you very much for the presentation. I appreciate the data.
Thank you.
Just in trying to understand this, you were discussing the redesignation of the English language learners. I'm just curious, do you have a number or do you have any idea? Maybe you don't have it right with you, so you might be able to email it. I'd be curious to know how many students we have that have come out of that. In fact, I want to say that statistic has been provided in the past, but I don't know what it is now, and it's not coming in my mind, but I'd be curious to know what that number is as well.
Yes, we could put that on the Friday update.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Trustee No, and then Trustee Bell.
Yeah, I don't mean to take away from the downward trend or the exposing of the lower percentages. I think we have a lot of work to do. I think we're all aware of implementation of Common Core, project-based learning, a handful of other things that can account for kind of a restart. But at the beginning, you brought up the use of the trackpad and so forth. So I'm wondering about the proctoring these tests. I mean, it seems like some of these numbers are just absurdly different, and so it's garbage in, garbage out information. And I'm very concerned about how well we're doing in preparing, setting up, and collecting and delivering the data itself. So I would like to just keep that on the table going forward as we re-administer these tests to make sure we're doing it right.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with what Ross and Derek had to say as well. And just to add to that, for me, I remind myself that this is just, as you said, one data point, one picture in time of our students. There are a lot of other things that our schools do in regards to benchmarks along the way. They don't just wait for this one test to take a picture of how their class is doing or how a student is doing. And I just have to continually remind myself, because these are not pretty, but I know our teachers are digging deep in them, and that's why we're providing this Friday, this 1 to 3 option for principals to go a little bit deeper and know what to look for and looking for the trends, because I think that's hard when you're trying to look for a trend amongst all of these numbers. And I hope, and you've really reiterated about the site plans and how they will be expressing what they're going to be doing, and so that always hasn't been the case, so I appreciate that as well.
You're welcome.
Trustee Aguilar.
Yeah, I'm worried about Loma Verde being one of the schools with issues with math and issues with a lot of other schools as well. I'm wondering what, and I know the teachers are well prepared, and I'm wondering what is it that we can do to help the teachers with that. I know we're doing some work, but it's just we can just keep asking ourselves that if there's a way that our students and our teachers can have give us feedback, whether it be and I always keep saying this in secret, whether it be in a box or something, just to see what we can do to help. Any ideas, anything that they can share with us, and they don't have to worry about who is sharing this information with us. And I've mentioned this before, and I don't know if we're doing it or not. Also, I've gotten a lot of feedback as far as the timing of the tests. I know some of them are at the beginning of the year, the other ones are at the end. For the self-test, we're doing that at the beginning, right? Not at the beginning, not having anything to do with the presentation, but that's at the beginning of the year. So not too early in the year, so that when the student is not when the student passes, what are we doing with the student? Are we putting the student back in a different class? Is there time enough to do that? Or is the student being put in the office to do office work, or what is it that we're doing? So we can maybe we can have a conversation about that later.
Yeah.
But the timing of the test has been a lot of feedback that I've gotten from parents that are not happy. At the end, the test at the end, they want it to be sooner, so they can well, there's different ideas, so maybe you guys can share with us.
Just quickly say the administration dates are set by the state of California for all districts. So everyone's testing at the same time. Everyone's testing the entire state. So we don't have control. So we have control of when that happens in the window. That is the window. Yeah. So
We're just following the state. That's fine. If there's something that we can do as administrators that we can do for the universities, don't think of it regarding what the results of the test was.
Thank you.
Thank you, trustees. Thank you, Superintendent Hogan.
You mentioned Loma Verde, and you mentioned a lot of our scores were generally down, whereas generally these are not just truth, but there's some weird spikes and things there. Loma Verde is not the only one. Loma Verde is not the only one, but I think what we're doing there, I think what you did is pretty informative of what we're trying to do everywhere, which is spending more time spending the data. So looking at Jen Derby came out Loma Verde last Development Day, was going through a day, and we'll do all delving down into the scale scores, which is scale schools, cohorts, talked about reports of what are the students, what are the students' areas in either language arts or math, or the students math doing well, students are like strategies, Cindy will talk about that a little bit with math, but frankly, we haven't done a good job with that. We haven't done a good job. That's one of the reasons our question this year, we haven't done a good job, we haven't done a good job looking as deeply as we need to look at the standardized tests, and frankly, we haven't done a very good job of looking at our formative tests. I mean, a lot of our teacher tests, I mean, a lot probably believe that the formative tests that they get, or the math tests or some things like that, tests you learn where like kids need to go, and more important, because they help us to know where to go, and know where you go, and you can make some adjustments along the way. We need to do a better job with learning targets, we need to do a better job with teachers, we need to do rating on some common assessments, whether that's an algebra 1, that's an algebra 1, 7th grade science, or whatever. So there's a lot of work we need to do around, a lot of work we need to do around measure sentences. This is one test, but this is one test, the most important test that everybody looks at. So, we're not trying to make excuses about it, make excuses about it. We're good. The results and so I think overall, assessment, question assessment is really important in how we're going to look at things, and we're going to look at. I think what Jeff said last meeting, which is how we need to look at it. How do we get kids to take incentive seriously? There's no incentive for them to take it serious. So how do we present the test, or how do we present the test with that? But how do you present it in ways how do kids present it in ways that kids are not in any way suggesting why the numbers are down, because the first graders don't necessarily do that. But somehow we have to get kids, especially in secondary and middle school, to try to take it seriously, because right now there's absolutely no incentive because it doesn't make a difference. There's a whole bunch of there's a whole positive effect of any one thing that's going to make one thing that's going to make all. As all I will do is assure the board that we will assure the board that we are looking at this seriously, taking it seriously. I think coaches, including Cindy and Matt and Eileen, we're bringing in everybody to help us take a look at it, and we don't want to overdo the sense of gloom and doom, but we have some work to do. So there we are.
Thank you.
I have a quick comment. I echo many of the comments. Scores are in, and the scores are good. Good. You know what I found really interesting was this grade slide about this grade where you followed the cohort. It was interesting that those numbers, all that impressed following those kids, same kids. You go up, look at third graders, look at D2 down to 48, 60. I don't know. It's a mystery. Forget about all the different kids, but these are the same kids.
Same one on the list, they moved or something, yeah. Same one, yeah. The core of it's the same, yeah.
I know we're doing a lot. So, anyway, thank you very much. Any other questions, comments? Yeah. That cohort wasn't in here.
Yes.
You changed it.
But you numbered the pages. That was great.
Trustee Miller.
One comment I noticed that there's multiple measures, multiple districts, there's multiple schools were seeing less than great news. And I'm wondering if there's some systematic across this district that's different than happened in the state. I would like think about that. It's not any one campus that's reflecting this campus. There's multiple campuses, and against the state we're declining. So I don't know what the answer to the question is, but I'd like you to figure it out. Maybe you can figure it out.
All right. Thanks. So this is the staff report, and thank you very much, Yvonne. And we'll move on to our second staff report, which was high school math and California language and learning, innovation, collaborations, Cali. And Yvonne Chavez will be
All right, so yes. Thank you for actually switching this. We're going to be able to go a little bit more into the now what. So you saw data. So now what are we going to do moving forward? So this one is you're going to be hearing about our high school math, specifically secondary math, and then the Cali collaboration. And Cali is California Language and Learning Innovation Collaborations. grant that we're part of. This is now the beginning of our second year of 3 years. And I want to, before we go on to have Cindy, one of our math instructional coaches who's been doing great work with our team, is introduce some of our members that are here from the Cali team. So I want to thank Kim Labs, who's back there from San Marin High School. We have Vivian Lee from Sinaloa, Shelly Phelan from San Jose, and not present is Tina Shimikowski. It's a cool. All right, it's a cool last name. All right. So that's our team, as well as Matt Baldwin, principal of Novato High, Mark Sims, principal of San Marin, and Julia Kemke. And I've been pinch-hitting for her while she's out on maternity leave, and that was nice to spend a day and a half with our team in Elm Grove, learning more about the strategies that we're going to be moving forward around 8th grade and algebra. So thank you, Cindy, and here's the PowerPoint.
Thank you. My name is Cindy Klinkman. I am a motion instructional coach working primarily with secondary teachers, grades 6 through 12. And the Cali Collaborative is part of the California Education Partners, and it's really focused on 8th grade and Algebra 1. And I don't know how many of you are familiar, when we changed the standards, we really kind of moved Algebra 1 to start in 8th grade. Algebra 1 is where they do all the linear equations, so it's really important coming out of 8th grade that they're really ready then for Algebra 1. I say in some ways they actually formalized the way we started doing some of the math. We used to have this Math 1A, Algebra 1A and 1B. The state kind of actually formalized that. They took that first part of algebra and they put it back in 8th grade, and the second part is in 9th grade. So we said when we joined this collaborative, we wanted to have 8th grade teachers in there as well, so we had this smooth transition. So this is actually our the very beginning of the second year of a 3-year collaborative. So the work that we're doing is over a longer period of time. And the reason we're really focusing on Algebra 1, again, as I'm sure you all know, Algebra 1 is really the gatekeeper to higher level math, and it's really important that we give students a really firm foundation in Algebra 1 so they can be successful as they go forward. And the focus around this collaborative is really around mathematical discourse as sort of the pathway for helping students to make meaning of math, understand what it is they're doing. They're not just solving a problem and doing steps. We really want them to start to understand the concepts behind it. And then hopefully that gives them a deeper understanding of the mathematics involved. Sorry, I'm kind of very good at talking this. So there's really been a major shift. If you look at the name of this collaborative, again, it's the California Learning and Language Innovation Collaboration, and it's really because there was a major shift in mathematics when the Common Core standards came in. So instead of, and this was referenced already earlier, you said it, instead of focusing on the answer, we want to find new ways of solving problems, of figuring out the clearest ways to justify and to describe ideas, and to really foster new mathematical understanding. So that is a really big shift in the way we teach. So who's on the Cali team? Well, in order for this to happen, there needs to be people at all levels. So we start with some of the people that are in our, if you see on this, our how, there's 3 parts to what we work on when we're at our Cali collaboratives. There's a vision, a process, and a content. And I'll talk about each one in a little bit more detail as I go on. But we have people who are kind of our stewards for it. So the stewards for the vision of what it is we're trying to get across is really where our administrators come in. That's Julia Kemke, and it's very exciting. I have to be very exciting this year. You guys will agree with me, to have both high school principals as part of our team, Matt Baldwin and Mark Sims, because it takes everyone's involvement to make some of these changes happen. And then the process of what we're doing, the stewards kind of for that piece of the puzzle of how do we set up the systems would be me as a math coach, and then Kim Lobbs really works at it as one of the high school department chair. And then for the content standards, the content stewards of how we're going to dive deep into the algebra, we have some more of our content experts, which would be Vivian, Shelley, and Tina would be on there. There we go. All right, so why? Why are we doing this? Because we want all students to succeed in math, to achieve success in math. There's been a lot of doom and gloom, and I think that, as I was hearing things coming forward, I'm like, I really want to help start to be a cheerleader for our math teachers. Our math teachers are making a lot of progress. They're having to do
180-degree changes in sometimes in how they're approaching math and how they're teaching and giving up some of the control and helping students take control. And this past year, San Marin made a very courageous decision, and I will continue to come back and say thank you to Kim Lobbs and Sarah Davis for really pushing for this to happen. And that was, we noticed, and teachers had noticed for a long time, Algebra 1 classes were becoming more and more saturated with students that were not in 9th grade. They were students who were repeating the second and the third time. And it was not good. I took over the algebra classes and we had a little problem with some teachers for a while, and I got in there and I was like, this is not a good situation. You would think maybe that having 10th and 11th graders might pull the 9th graders up, but no, it had the opposite effect. So we said, hey, we have an idea. What if we have a 9th grade algebra class, or students who are taking algebra for the first time? And then we have classes made up of students who are repeating algebra for the second time. We don't call it repeating algebra, they called it applied algebra. And we gave these classes to our best teachers, our most enthusiastic, our most experienced teachers, these classes with students who were taking algebra for another time. And it was successful. The San Marin rate for their Algebra 1 classes, their pass rate went to 84%. It exceeded the goal of what we wanted 9th graders, this was the 9th graders, what we wanted 9th graders to achieve. And Novato High, we kept as there was we call it our control group. They kept things kind of status quo. Was this going to make a change? And it did. At Novato High, only 75% of their 9th graders had a C minus or better. So we said, hey, we're on to something. This year, Novato High has made that change as well. And getting reports from teachers and walking through classes and seeing how things are going, a huge difference in the focus of students in class. And so again, I think as we talk about changes that we're making in mathematics, it's really important to realize that this is a slow process. It doesn't happen, the changes can't happen overnight. The standards are, they change the order sometimes of the way things happen. They change the way we have to teach. And the biggest piece of the puzzle, I think, for us right now, so I don't get too far off my notes, is just teachers starting to come together, talk about what's happening, and then being able to make some of those implemented changes. So I'll come back to Callie. Again, we have those 3 pieces of the puzzle. And as I said before, it takes everybody. It takes actually all stakeholders. It takes the administrators, the teachers, and the students, because we cannot leave, and the Callie program is wonderful for making us keep the students in the equation. Through Callie, and I'll tell you a little bit more about some specific people we work with a lot of people from Stanford in their Graduate Department of Education, and as we're developing some of our plans, they will continue to come around to you and say, student's missing, where's the student in this process? How are you including the student in what you're doing? Because the student is our most important person, right? That's our customer, that's who we want to help. If they don't buy into what we're doing, the changes aren't gonna happen. So again, the vision is just making sure that all teachers are on board with knowing what we're doing. So the people, those stewards in charge of the vision, those administrators, that's kind of what they're charged with. That process, how do we put structures in place for teachers to reflect and to build capacity? And then the content, how do we start to increase academic discourse and a growth mindset? And one of the ways we're going to be doing this, I'll talk about several ways we're working with it, is around this thing called learning targets, which is another big change to math. So the what are we doing? We do have plans in place. We are doing something. The first thing that we're doing right now is in November, we will be coming together, every teacher in grades 6 through Algebra 2, which happens to encompass every single secondary math teacher in Novato, is going to give what's called a Mars task. You can see kind of a little example there. It's really just a performance task. That's all it is, like they would see on the CASP. They're giving one at the end of this month. In November, we'll come together. The principals have agreed to give us 2 Wednesdays in a row, 2 for high school, 2 for middle school. We'll come together and we'll calibrate these. Because calibration, when we're talking about changing some of the ways that we are assessing students, calibration is the most important part, right? Because if Kim decides to grade her students one way and Vivian grades her students another way, how do we come together and use it as a benchmark? We have to come together to agree on what it looks like. So we're going to come together to calibrate and score those Mars tasks. When you score them, it's amazing. It's all student writing. You see what the kids think. And from that, you can say, hey, there's a big misconception around this. I thought I had done this right, but oh, look, teacher B their students are being really successful at it. What are they doing? And that's what happens when you can bring people together to discuss student work. So that's what we want to do. We'll have them together, calibrate and score, second Wednesday, because we want to honor teachers' time. This is not over and above. This is during the regular Wednesday meeting time. We'll come together and we'll say, okay, now that we've done that, now that we see things, what's next? We collect a lot of data, but sometimes I don't think we're as good at saying, well, what am I going to do with it? What's my next step? So I've noticed that all these students in Algebra 1 are missing this piece of this quadratic, whatever the content standard might be that we're working at. What am I going to do? How can we come up with some re-engagement lessons? How can we do not necessarily, we don't always like to say reteach, but what can I do? What are some strategies I can put into place to help them? And then in the spring, the second part after our next Cali convening, we'll be planning some spring times for them to get together. We want to give a selection tool around them. And the majority of the math teachers have either gone or will attend the Portland Sound Grading Conference in December. And that piece of the puzzle is really important, that we get everybody kind of on the same page. And a learning target simply means the difference between when you get back a traditional math test and you got a 75%. Okay, what does that mean? What did I miss? What didn't I know? 25% I did wrong, but what does that mean? If we can direct students to the specific pieces of the puzzle that they're missing, for example, a learning target for slope might be, I can find slope from a table or from 2 points without a y-intercept. Can you do that? Can I not? It's something I need to work on in practice. So it's another way, a different way of starting to think about how we assess our students and to give the students something to start to work for. And I can tell you just from talking to teachers, students don't like this. They don't like having to come in and take responsibility for this learning. This is hard. This is hard. They love getting that test. Okay, good enough. I got a C. Throw it in the binder. Oh, I got an A. Great. What is it that I need to look for? How am I defining what I'm learning? Can I come out of a course saying, I know what a linear equation is and I know when to use it? That's what we want them to be able to do. Not, I got an A. Okay. But what can you do with that? So it works at all levels. And then the last thing that we're doing is trying to develop an academic discourse rubric that students, teachers, or other stakeholders, anyone, an administrator, a peer, could walk into your classroom and say, what do I see the students, again, it's not what do I see the teacher teaching, what do I see the students talking about? It focuses back on the students. How are they talking to one another about math? So that's another big sort of piece of our puzzle. And I really wanted to tell you a few people also that we get to work with Cali. It's a very elite, sometimes, group of people, I think. We work with, as I said before, Stanford Thought Partners. These are people with their Graduate School of Education. People like Jeff Swears, who is the guru on academic discourse, written many books. We get to work with him. We also get to work with Phil Darrow, who is one of the early writers of the Common Core Standards for math. We also get to work with David Foster from the Silicon Valley Math Initiative. This is where we get the MARS tasks from them. And through their data, they've shown there's an 80% correlation between the MARS task and the CASP. And it's probably because David Foster, who works with them, is a contributor to the CASP performance task. So he writes the tasks they see. So using those MARS tasks, can help us out. Tongue twister. So that's kind of where we're going. Really working together to try and make some movement. And do you have any questions? Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention, because I'm sorry. I probably am not supposed to do that. We have a math leadership team that Yvonne talked about and Jim has referenced. All of the members of our Cali team are part of that leadership team. So there is a direct intersection between what we're doing with both of those groups. So, sorry. Okay, questions?
Ross, you want to start us off?
Okay.
Very interesting. And I think you were talking about all your students, but right at the very beginning of your presentation, you explained how you decided to separate algebra students who are taking it for the first time and algebra students who are taking it for the second or third or fourth time. And you figured out at least the social aspects of the classroom, dividing those two populations was a good thing. For whatever reason you said, the test scores are better.
Right.
So all of this discussion that we've just gone through in terms of how people think and come to understand mathematics. I'm curious how that applies to students in the second population who are taking it for the second or the third or the fourth time and are having a hard time grasping and remembering, or grasping and remembering and applying the concept. So could you speak to that area a little bit?
So I think part of it.
We have students who can't graduate from high school
I know,
because they
right.
didn't pass eighth
Yeah.
grade algebra
Right.
4 times.
Right. And I think that's why we said it matters sometimes who's teaching your course. And we wanted to give this course to teachers that were on the front of innovation and had a heart for students who were struggling perhaps in math and who were going to work cooperatively with one another around students that needed additional help. I think the learning targets have been a big help. Kim, I'm going to look at Kim because Kim teaches one of those classes.
Hi, Kim.
Has been a good way. Do you want to come up? You don't have to.
Yeah, come on.
They said I could come up and present, and they would be here in the audience to answer questions.
They promised
got
I'd never
plenty
be.
of opinions here,
They
so.
stand behind me.
I said I'd stand
We're a
behind
team,
her.
but Kim can answer. No, right there. Yeah.
I do teach one of the applied classes along with Sarah Davis. We have 2 applied algebra classes at San Marin High School. This is our second year doing the applied. And part of it is social. Part of it is that idea that these students who are 17 and 18 years old
Young men.
compared to the kids who are 14 years old in the same classroom, it does make a difference socially. But it's much more than, it's not just social. It is also when we separated them, and I'm talking to my applied students, they were so grateful that they weren't in a class with these kids who just got it in a second when they were struggling, and I would allow them more time to grasp those things. They'd already seen the applications and the applied things that they had done once or twice or maybe 3 times already. So I said, all right, you've already bounced the ball and we've already done all that. Let's take it a little bit back to just some basics for you, and we will approach it in a slightly different way. We have the same learning targets, exactly the same learning targets. They're always the I can statements. I can write the equation of a line using slope and intercept. I can write the equation of a line using 2 points. And then we really target that and say, okay, what does that mean? And we talk with them about that. They talk with us about it, and they start seeing what they can do. And it makes a big difference in how they feel about their ability to find success. So it's not just the social aspect of it. It is much more that we have the ability to really delve into where are those gaps that you have? What is it that we can do? And for the kids who are really just resistant to wanting, they're almost daring me to teach them, that I have a different way I can approach the group in that way. Because the classes are all in, it's not rows anymore. You know, if you've been in the classrooms now, it's not a bunch of rows. This is all kids working in groups. And so I can target groups, and depending on what learning target I'm working on, can put different groups of kids together that either can help support or can work with each other, you know, depending on what it is. So it's made a huge difference, I think, with being able to target those kids who have struggled over the years. So.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah, I need to answer, but questions? You can sit down then, but come back up or come up stay.
Okay, can you come?
Stay. This is our high school teacher here tonight.
That was
so,
really
yeah.
good. That we had to hear
You're
that.
right here. Thank you. Stay with me.
Cindy, you need to come every month and just talk to this board. And
What? Oh.
you really put me at ease a little
Okay.
bit. I mean,
All
I
right.
had a
Thank
bunch
you.
of like, why aren't this? Why aren't we seeing
Right.
this? And I know you're looking at all those things. What are the
Yeah.
D's and F's?
Yeah.
What are the repeat
Right.
students? And you're finding the solutions, and that
trying.
really helped me a lot.
Okay,
So
good.
thank you very much. So a couple questions. In 14-15, Common Core state standards adopted. Same year, we approved CPM math. We got a lot of pushback from that at the middle school with the parents and kids, and you're just telling kids, well, go figure it out on your own. That's what you heard a lot of.
Right, which is.
So where are we at?
So I think with CPM, as Kim can probably attest at the high school level, because we have been consistent in implementing CPM in the middle schools. It's a different scenario when they get to high school. They know how to work in a team. They know the way the program flows. We're also learning as teachers, again, a curriculum is simply a guide for you. It should not be, no matter what curriculum you have, it shouldn't be, I'm on chapter 3, section 2, problem 5 today. It really needs to be about the standard that you're working on. And so I think as teachers have become more comfortable with the whole nature of students giving up that control and students working in teams, that we're moving to that. How can I pull things in to supplement what we're doing? How can I pull in Mars tasks? So I really feel like we're starting to move in that direction, especially through 6th grade, through Algebra 1 and into geometry and into Algebra 2. We are having more success with it.
So maybe it was more of just the change at the time.
It was
works
very.
and what doesn't, and just kind of thrown.
If you take a student who's learned to sit, and our students got very good at learning how to sit and they learned how to be quiet if they wanted to be. And they all suddenly had to dive in. So I feel like as I walk through classrooms, I can see changes at the high school from that, yeah.
And where does MAP fit into all of
MAP?
MAP.
So MAP at the secondary in math is a little bit different than MAP in elementary. So it's a different test that they take, and it's vastly different results. For example, we may get a 6th grader who scores really high, and so you look at what the goals they have to work on. Well, they have to learn how to use the quadratic formula. Well, they're never going to use the quadratic formula until they're in high school. So we use it. MAP for us from 6th through 8th grade is just more of that benchmark to see growth overall in general. MAP is not appropriate for high school in math. It's an end-of-course assessment, and I've had conversations with Jen Larson, and I were on the phone one day with the MAP people, and they said the same thing. It's not a test that you can use. It's an end-of-course assessment only. It's not recommended to give it during the time.
Yeah, it's
so.
good to know that. Okay. Can I ask one more question? Of course. Are you seniors in the path that they're taking? Are you seeing an improvement in that? Have you seen any changes in what, are they taking 4 years of math? Are they taking 3 years of math?
I think.
Are we looking at that?
And I can tell you that it is being looked at very closely.
Okay.
And I think that it is one of those things that we're starting on. We've made some changes at this point in time. You know, the interesting thing is you guys were all talking about CASP, and we're sitting back there going, okay, we want to say something because we know stuff.
That's why we need you here.
I know. The 11th grade CASP math test is very different than any others because it includes topics from Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. If an 11th grade student is still in Algebra 1, they are never going to be successful on the CASP.
Good point.
Right? So the goal with what we are trying to do is, what we really need to do is to get students moving through those courses successfully, or we're not going to be able to see that meeting standards, right, on the CASP test. And it's very difficult. I have a lot of issues with the state in the math and the way the assessments are graded. Part of the assessment is multiple choice, which is graded by a computer, but a lot of it is graded by a person. And the level of mathematical understanding you have to grade that test is incredibly low. So I think there's a lot of factors involved, and how unfair to a student to take this test all the way through 8th grade, and then they don't take it for 2 years, and now they're supposed to take it and remember how to use all the tools. And even on the math test, on the CASP test this year, as I was watching it I was helping some teachers proctor it. You can't answer questions for them, but they give them this keypad, and the symbol for multiplication is an asterisk. So if a student actually knew it, but they didn't know the asterisk was multiplication, then all of a sudden, boom, what are you going to do? So I think we have to, as Yvonne said before, using having those devices is going to help. And thankfully, I have not investigated, because we tried to use the interims last year, and the data that came out of it was junk. And everyone will testify, I coerced them all to do it, and then I couldn't give them anything. But that's apparently changed. So we're hoping that we can use the interims to give to our 9th graders and then to our 10th graders so that they have some practice with the device itself, and we get some data back to see kind of where they are, right? Scary to wait that many years.
Great.
Good stuff. And really appreciate the social aspect you bring up, because firsthand experience with it with our oldest in geometry, when the geometry with a bunch of seniors and a bunch of freshmen, and yeah, it didn't work. And you know, when you think about the whole social aspect of a kid who is with a bunch of younger kids, he just feels like an idiot, or he or she.
Yeah.
And all we're doing is reinforcing that they can't do math.
Completely, right.
And I think you all would agree that there is different ways of doing math, and nobody is bad at math. It's just we have to figure out how to tap into it.
Right.
So I love the idea of socially breaking it up, but not totally tracking either. We have to strike a really fine balance.
Yeah, right.
But if you can make it so that it is just a 1-year delay, then we can really mitigate that, and we can still hit Algebra 2 junior year, which is, that's the key I heard that we need to really focus on.
Yeah, that's would be the goal. If you want, if we're going to use CASP as a measurement, they have to get to Algebra 2 by their junior year.
Right, and so where I'm going with this is I'm hoping, and forgive me for not knowing, I should know this, but to the extent we're doing these kind of approaches at the older levels, so freshman geometry, sophomore Algebra 2, well, that's the kind of advanced track.
Yeah.
But then the larger group, and having, the kids take it a second time and get through it.
Right.
So not just for the algebra piece, but all the way through. And it sounds like this is just the baseline for it.
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping, the theory being that if a student is successful in Algebra 1, that they're getting the baseline that they need, and that when they go to geometry, they would be successful in geometry.
Right.
And then they would move on to Algebra 2, so.
So the assumption is that they get kind of a delay once, and then they kind of get back on track, and then they're now on a year-to-year thing.
Right.
And I guess the only thing I'd caution is we might have another delay, speed bump in geometry. So they might need 2 years for algebra, and they might need 2 years for geometry. And that, I think, is probably the next challenge we're going to run into, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, and definitely it could be, and there's a lot of theory behind different schools do things different ways. Some put geometry after Algebra 2. You just go Algebra 1, Algebra 2. I don't know, I think that it's, the biggest part of what we're trying to do is to keep this dialogue open, and a lot of what happened wouldn't have happened if we hadn't had started to put processes into place where we all started to talk. Because it's when you get math teachers in a room together and they realize that they don't have an isolated situation. Oh, I have the same situation at this school or at this school. And so that's when those solutions, the brains start to go, the creative minds.
And I think it's really key, and you're already doing it, bringing in the better teachers for the more challenging group.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because we need to show our commitment to get this done.
Yeah,
So
you don't give it to your first year teacher.
so good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Trustees, anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry, Jeffrey.
All right, so I just wanted to say I've had the pleasure of having Miss Klinkman, Miss Lee, and Miss Lobbs.
I know, yeah. We love seeing Jeffrey here.
Yeah, I really loved math because I really had such a strong foundation.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I know.
Yeah, so Miss Klinkman laid such a foundation for me so that I could excel in math. So Miss Lee kind of tuned my math and made it so I can understand it in a different way, and Miss Lobbs really said it so that I had room to grow. I went from pre-algebra to algebra. I had to repeat algebra, but when I repeated it, that's when the change happened, the CPM change. So I think that actually benefited me in the long run because I got to retake a class and really understand the method of working instead of the content, and I think that's what led to success later on. My sophomore year, I took geometry and algebra 2 so I could catch up to the STEM students, and take STEM my sophomore year. I later dropped out, but not talking about that. And I feel like just having a strong teacher that can teach it in a way that you can understand and setting a foundation will let you have the ability to learn it yourself. If I didn't have a foundation, learning CPM would be close to impossible. Just to give an example, my girlfriend moved here from Washington. She does not have the foundations to understand this content, and she's struggling very much, and she doesn't have any way of understanding it unless someone is there to explain it to her. Having a foundation will really lead to benefits later on and make it so that we can push for CPM to work better. Because once CPM clicks, it'll work. It's worked for me because I had the foundation, I taught it, I learned it, and I worked with other students. Having the groups is amazing for me because I had two of my best friends my junior year, and that was what pushed me to do really well. And once, like, it just gave me a way to do it correctly. So that's why I want to say that it's worked for me, and that's because I've had foundations and other people. Other people have been struggling with it because some of them just don't have the foundation. Some of them just don't have the ability to like go out and ask for help, or some people just don't want to. So if we have foundations set up in like 7th and 8th grade, I feel like this would benefit in the long run and make it so that everybody starts doing better and it'll be more obvious, you know? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. That's, listening to you, that's quite inspirational.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you. Any other trustees, comments?
Yeah.
Trustees?
Just a quick comment. Thank you. And Kim, thank you for coming up and speaking as well. This kind of knowledge and feedback that we're receiving is the kind of information I can just speak for myself. I really love to hear, because a lot of the questions I have, I wonder, is this really going on in the classroom? How are we helping to lift these kids up? So thank you for the real life lesson. Appreciate it.
And I have a quick comment, but first, our superintendent.
So just a quick question. So I know Cali has different focus areas, right? Like they have 3rd grade reading and they have algebra. So how many other districts are with us, and how do you learn, and are they all focusing on the exact same thing, and how are you learning from what they're learning?
So we're within the high school math, and so it's just our high school math, people that are there for high school math. And I think there was 6 other districts around the state that we work with. So we actually get to learn with other people and what they're doing. We get to kind of glean the best of their work. If they've developed something, they share with us. We go to, they call opt-ins, where we go in and actually work with those. I actually went down to Kings Canyon, which is south of Fresno, is doing amazing work with their instructional coaches and with the way they are bringing their students together around discourse and things they're doing as learning walks. They send their, basically the same thing we do. They have both high school principals and a middle school principal as part of their team, as well as teachers. So that's the best part, is learning from other people as well.
Thank you. Trustee Aguilar.
I just wanted to thank our math teachers, Kim especially. Thank you for all your hard work and everything that you are currently doing for our students. Thank you.
And I would just like to extend the invitation and ask our superintendent to please have you return frequently, because this has been inspirational, especially after our last report.
Yeah.
This is wonderful.
I can bring some bouncy balls and some math tasks the next time if you'd like.
Oh, man. Yeah, so anytime.
I call us we're the math cheerleaders. We love math.
Please don't be strangers.
So, yeah.
Don't be strangers.
Thank you, Cindy.
All right, on to our third staff report, item B on the it's student retention data. Yeah, it's 2B, so there you are. It's student retention data, and Leslie Benjamin will be presenting. Hi, Leslie.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to report tonight about the student retention survey. Basically, surveying our families that have left the district. This is the 3rd year that we have administered this survey. The first year we just focused on 5th and 8th graders. The next year we did district-wide, but forgot to ask what grade level. And this year I think we honed in and asked all the right questions, so we got some really good data. 399 students did not continue with NUSD, and that's about 16 more than last year. We had emails for 319 families, so I sent that link to them, and I got 122 responses, which is a 38.2% return, which is pretty good. Some of the highlights is that 57 families, or 49%, moved out of the area. So there was a lot of reasons, because they're There's, one of them got a better job, or they couldn't afford to live here anymore. And of those 57 families, 64 had students in elementary, and 72 were from secondary. 5th grade and 8th grade, which started this whole surveying, is why our 5th grade and 8th grade students were leaving a couple years ago, still remains to be the highest number of grade levels that didn't return. So where did they go? So the top ones in elementary were Good Shepherd, that's here in town, McKinley School up in Petaluma. 9 went to other Petaluma public schools, and 9 to other public Marin schools. And interestingly enough, this year over 2016, 8 more students went to Petaluma public schools compared to last year. And so I asked the question, did the summer mailing by the Petaluma City Schools have an effect on this? No doubt. Yeah, probably. Because we did see Casa Grande entering the picture for our secondary students, for our high schools. And Marin Catholic, 14, which is the same number of students that went to Marin Catholic last year from the survey. But St. Vincent de Paul, Good Shepherd, Marin Christian Academy was new, as well as Casa Grande. So some of the reasons given were the lack of challenging curriculum, lack of rigor, the number of students, increasing class size, safety and supervision, and bullying. So what can we do? Well, regarding with rigor and challenging curriculum, we're continuing to develop the pathways at both the high schools. STEM academies, MSA, we have MBI. We have the Get Focused, Stay Focused for all freshmen in 9th grade, and continuing to increase our AP courses and offerings. I believe we included AP Geography this year or last year, one of the two, and continuing to strengthen our relationship with College Marin and really trying to increase that rigor there. Regarding the number of students and class size, a recent study performed shows that NUSD has the lowest class sizes in Marin County, and also with our comparable districts. So there's that. And safety and supervision. I think, let's review our campus supervisor ratio and our physical campuses to see, what are we doing with safety and supervision. And another thing that really came up was about bullying. And, thank you, Maria, for all the work that you do with Healthy Novato. They do a bullying survey that they gave in May. And Evie from Healthy Novato said that they're going to be comparing those results with the California Healthy Kids Survey, that the results are going to be available in the spring 2018. Compare those results and see where we are with bullying. Also, our schools have many strategies to address the social emotional wellness, such as the no bully and solution teams, character education, class meetings or tribes activities. And then North Bay Security Group also goes out to the classroom and does some cyberbullying with the students and provides individual support. And I believe you've also passed out on your table is sort of a matrix of what the schools and all of the social emotional wellness programs that they have going on. It's pink. And that's what I have.
All right. Very nice, Leslie. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustees, questions, comments? Trustee Scott?
You can go if you want. Go ahead.
Oh, Jeffrey, you go first.
Yeah, Jeffrey.
I just have a question. Why does Hamilton have just almost everything on this list compared to like San Marin and Novato and San Ramon and all the schools? Just that's just the question I have.
So what I would say is one of the things that Steve Hospodar, the principals, tried to do is make Hamilton a community school. And so he realizes that there's a very high at-risk population. Hamilton, I think, probably has our highest number of kids in poverty, probably our higher number of kids that are Latino kids, EL kids, all that. And he realizes that they need more support. So a lot of these programs, he's got Mentor Me in there to get mentors, partnerships with the YMCA, partnerships with the Nevada Youth Center. So some of our schools where kids are needier, need more support, they have more programs to help those kids, whether that's before school programs, after school programs, or whatever. So probably if you look at our Title I schools, which is where we get money for kids in poverty, they're going to have more of those programs than others. So that's a good question. I would also just point out that this is from a while ago. As you see on the bottom, it was a survey conducted during the 15-16 school year. So one of the things Yvonne and I talked about is Healthy Novato is going to be reviewing these with Evie, because there's a lot of other things on here too. People are doing mindfulness training. I don't know, there's all kinds of stuff. So what we need to do is and maybe we're not doing some of these. So what we really need to do is take stock of all the things we're doing and really ask what's working, what's not working, and maybe come up with 2 or 3 choices of the best research-based programs that are going to make a difference. So there's no one thing that's going to make all the difference in the world, but obviously some programs must have better success rates than others. So we'll continue to use our surveys. We're going to try this new Youth Truth survey this year, where we're going to get some analytics from them, but we will really be reviewing this list. And as I think you guys know, the Blue Ribbon Commission is on hiatus right now. We're having a hard time finding a fiscal agent. It just seemed like a good time to take a break. So Healthy Novato's kind of taking this on to look at this and then come back and make some recommendations about how to move forward from here.
All right, Shelley.
What I wanted to say, Leslie, was I think given some of the feedback from the survey, we really need to toot our horn for some of the things that we're doing right. I mean, I'm reading that some of these people left because of, teacher-student ratio, and when we have the lowest in the county. I think that that's something that we should really be tooting our horn about, especially the things that we are doing right. I just think, the more PR that we can do to educate the community and the parents that are making those choices of, all the things that we have to offer, especially things that are coming in terms of Linwood, where we're going to have the Spanish curriculum starting there. I mean, those are the things that I'd like to see us, still PR to let people know the great things that we're doing in this district, because we are doing some great things.
We are.
So, and I know you're only one person, but we really need to focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for all your hard work on the presentation.
Just thank you. Trustee Mack?
Actually, yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Comments? Trustee Aguilar?
Look forward to a recent or more updated on this information on the sheet, and I'm glad that we're going through that and making sure that we're not duplicating services and trying to save some money as well. So when do you think we would have some answers for this?
Yvonne, do you know when you might have an opportunity to update that pink sheet of all the services?
Yes, great question. So this week, our principals will be getting an email from Evie Zarowski, who's our Healthy Novato coordinator. And on Jim and my behalf, the principals will be asked kindly to update that. Yes.
Yeah. Anyone else? Comments? I just wanted to say thank you. Another great job, and obviously there's a benefit to doing surveys. I would say my highlight for me too was the bullying. I saw that, and the other really good part, a great part of it, is there were a lot of favorable comments. So we're,
There were.
doing
A
some
lot of
good
people
stuff.
were sorry to move away.
Yeah, they're moving away, and they're sorry they're leaving. So I think we have some work to do, though. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Is Yancy here? Yancy, we have item, well, let's see, I'll have to do this. Item D, I know. Budget Advisory Committee update, and we do have, I'll talk slowly, our Assistant Superintendent of Business and Operations, Yancy Hawkins. And this is actually a very timely report. He probably is sharpening his pencil. Trustee Mack has joined us, I'm glad. Oh, nice of you to stop by.
Mr. Woolard reminded me that I did not have a tie on, and yes, he's a military guy, so he couldn't take it. So thank you. Apologies for my delay there. So I'm here to give an update on the Budget Advisory Committee. In August, the board approved the 2018-19 budget development calendar, which included meetings for the Budget Advisory Committee. As you know, our multi-year projections show some significant structural deficits, and as we obviously cannot get to the point where it is seen in those projections, we're going to have to do some things about that to make sure we don't. So tomorrow is the update is tomorrow is the first meeting of the committee. There are currently 22 members of the committee, and we have almost all of them filled because we've tried to get a representative from all schools, as well as trying to hit as many different groups at a manageable level. There are currently scheduled 4 meetings for the committee, one in October, November, December, and January, with recommendations to be brought to the board in February of 2018, prior to allow for the all those to be implemented by the June deadline for the 2018-19 budget. While there are 4 currently scheduled, we will meet as many times as we need to. If we need some additional meetings, we will do that, and we have a little bit of wiggle room there. In terms of the membership, we have teachers, classified staff, administrators, and parents. And like I said, we tried to get representation from all sites in one of those areas. With that, I'm happy to open it up to any questions.
Thank you, Nancy. Trustees, and comments, questions? All right, great job.
Thank you.
I think this is really, it's very timely and a really important committee, and I'm glad you pulled together a lot of representative people into that committee. That's going to be great.
And I'd
I
also
look forward to hearing back from you in February.
absolutely, and I'd also like to thank NFT and CSEA, who have both appointed representatives to that committee to help us with that work. So we really appreciate that.
Very important. Thank you. All right. Trustees, we're on to item 14A, which is our first discussion action item, and it's a resolution number 10, 2017-18, arts education, and Yvonne Chaidez again.
All right, good evening, thank you. So this evening, I'm here to ask the board to adopt resolution number 10, for arts education. One thing that's very exciting this year that we're doing around the arts is partnering with MoCA, I believe it's MoCA. It's a Museum of Modern Art, which is here in the Hamilton area. So it's a great partnership for all of our 4th graders district-wide to be able to get this experience, but not only through the museum, but also with local artists. And this is in collaboration as well with School Fuel, who's helping us with this partnership. And also, with our families, the students are able to go with their families to the museum for free as well through this grant provided by School Fuel and MoCA. It's double M, so that's why it kind of throws me off there. So the resolution, I'm not going to read all of it, it's pretty long, but the resolution, it does define, whereas the arts, including dance, music, theater, and visual arts, are defined as a core subject. We just spoke about the SBAC scores, right? You didn't see any of these scores on there, but it is considered a core subject in California state definition of basic education, and it is considered an essential component of the complete balanced education for our students. A piece of the resolution that I really like is this piece, whereas the learning in and through the arts enables students to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills, imagination and creativity, discipline, alternative ways to communicate and express feelings and ideas, and cross-cultural understanding, which supports academic success across the curriculum as well as personal growth outside the classroom. So as I'm reading that, you can visualize our graduate profile in there, the 6 C's. You can see the content area, which is nice to see the arts. So this evening, I'm asking for approval where it says, now therefore it be resolved that we, the Novato Unified School District Board of Education, hereby support arts of education in Novato.
All right, trustees, comments, questions. It is our first action item, so we will need to make a motion to approve this resolution. And I would be open to a motion first. Okay, Trustee Mack is the first. Good night, Jeffrey. Trustee Nell is the second. Okay, all in favor? Full house, we have 7 approving that, and that would be approval of resolution. Let me just read that one more time. Number 10, 2017-18 Arts Education, and I do once again want to thank School Fuel for funding this. On to item B.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you done for the evening? Item B, intra-district open enrollment board policy. I don't know where I was making that up. Sorry, Chris. You said and administrative regulation 5116.1. This is the first reading, and Chris Koska will be presenting this.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm bringing before you a change to our intra-district policy, board policy, and also the associated administrative regulation around inter-district open enrollment application process. I want to kind of break this down into 2 parts if I could. The first part is just about the general changes that come about within an administrative regulation or board policy through time as recommended by CSBA. And then the second part will be changes that we have made to the administrative regulation as a result of our transition of Linwood Elementary School to the dual immersion program at Linwood. Okay? So the changes that CSBA has recommended are those in red in your board policy and in red in the administrative regulation up until the point where it says dual immersion program at Linwood. And those changes pretty much just clarify that students who change schools through the program improvement, everybody's favorite term in education, program improvement process, gets to stay at the schools that they transferred to. So that clarifies that in the policy. It also clarifies that districts are going to calculate in a non-arbitrary manner the space available for students to do intra-district transfers. And then finally, and thankfully, it removes the provisions around program improvement other than that portion that they stay at their schools from the policy and the regulation. So I'd like to take any questions or comments about those general CSBA recommended changes. And then I'll shift gears and move into the Linwood portion, if that works for you all.
Okay. Good riddance. Yeah, no kidding. All right, I think you're clear to go.
Okay. So,
Shelley, sorry, Chris.
Oh, please.
I did have a question. Just as far as it's on your page 1 of page 6 where it was the board shall determine, you've now made that the superintendent or designee. I'm just curious in terms of what we were doing and what we're now doing, what those differences were around that on your page 1.
Yeah. And it also shows up in the administrative regulation as well. We don't have a strong preference for that. That's CSBA's recommended change.
Oh, that was CSBA's recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you'd be more comfortable, we could have it say something like the board or designee.
It's fine the way it is. I was just
Okay.
curious, what were we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah,
What was
same.
prompting that change? Because before it was saying board and then it was superintendent. And it just made me pause and think, okay.
The process would remain the same.
Okay.
And essentially what that is I work with Yancey to review facilities. Then we look at enrollment. We make a determination about how much space is available. And then we present that to the board in open session.
Okay, yeah, because I just saw that we'd looked at this before. I think it was 2010 or 2011.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure what the changes were. Okay, thank you.
All right, you're
I
welcome.
have a question on the next one as well.
Okay, Trustee Miller, you got a question?
To that point,
Uh-huh.
the reason we put the board in the middle of that was there was lots of screaming and shouting in this community. This room was full on multiple occasions about people wanting inter-district transfers, and leaving staff to defend their position didn't allow the community to come and have that conversation. So we explicitly made it the board's business to set those guidelines, and they were recommended by the superintendent and discussed publicly and
is that
approved. So the
why?
process
Okay.
works, and I would suggest we use the word board or board designee, and that way, if anybody ever wonders, it is this room where those final numbers are set with the recommendation from the superintendent. And I don't remember ever changing them. The only conversation I remember was the board asked that a little more room be allowed on each campus in case some new people moved in. So it's not a real strong request on my part, but that's my memory and
Well,
my.
you've got that historical data, so.
Thank you, Ross, for that. I appreciate that input.
So
I wasn't
board-
aware.
Screaming and shouting.
How did you word that again? Just board/superintendent or designee?
Board or board designee, I would take Chris's words, he's better at this than
The
I am.
board or designee.
Good.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, Russ.
I think that's great advice. Thank you.
Kept the superintendent from having that battle.
Good point. One that wasn't
Okay.
thought of.
All right. Thank you, Ross. I appreciate the input.
Sure you do.
No.
Just FYI, Ross,
Ross's name is on there.
Ross, he just said he likes it, yeah. He's happy you said that. All right, why don't we move
All
on?
right, so one of the most complex things about the transition of Linwood School to the dual immersion program is how we are going to deal with really three different groups of students. So you've got the students that live within the Linwood boundaries and who are excited about staying there. That's easy, right? But the people within Linwood boundaries who decide that the dual immersion program isn't for them is something we need to figure out how we deal with those children. Then there's another group of children we need to consider, and that is children that move to the Linwood attendance boundary, but after the program has already been going. And how do we assess them to make sure that they can be successful in a program that they haven't been involved in? So they don't necessarily have the English or Spanish skills necessary to succeed. And then the third group is members of our Novato community who want to attend the Linwood Dual Immersion program. And then there's a fourth group that I don't think we will get to, but that is students that want to do an inter-district transfer into Linwood. I think we'll be full. But we've got to consider the possibility that there will be that fourth group. So I'm going to kind of walk you through what our proposed language says for each of those groups. And we'll start with students in the Linwood Elementary School boundary. And there's a lot of words on this page. This is word for word, but condensed information that's all in your cover sheet and also in the policy. So no surprise language here. So if you can't read it here, you have it on the paper in front of you. So obviously we're going to focus on students wanting out of Linwood area, because if they're already there, they're enrolled, they're going to stay enrolled. So if a family at Linwood wants to opt out, there's a special form that they're going to fill out. And on that form, they're going to rank all of the elementary schools in Novato, excluding the charter school, in order of priority. So from number 1 to number 7. And then we are going to do our best to do a couple of things. Get them as high as they can on the priority list based on space available, and then keep siblings together. So those are going to be our priorities when we're trying to find a space for them. So let's stop and say, any questions about that portion? Ross?
We have had, with a specialized program, which is what we're talking about in this town, we have had problems with the sibling preference. As valuable as it sounds, it means if you've got 4 kids and you can get any one of them in, the rest can follow along. And it turns out, if it says siblings, if the youngest one gets in at kindergarten, it becomes a justification to bring the first grader, the third grader, and the fifth grader over to the same campus. So it turns out to be a dangerous thing, and you end up with these cohorts, or families wait and they can't get into kindergarten or first grade or second grade, but they finally get a third grader in, then the whole family moves. There are some problems with it that need to be thought through very carefully. And we want to honor families, but we also don't want to create a time bomb, which is what we had done before.
Right, so we'll, yeah. Yeah, so let me say that I appreciate you bringing that up, and we'll have to review the policy to see what options we have there.
We can have a conversation that'll take a couple of hours of how this twists and turns in the wind.
Yeah.
With all good intentions.
Absolutely. And it can really change the demographics of a campus too, when some of those policy decisions. So good, we'll review that. Okay. The next group of students is the students who move into the Linwood area after the school year begins. So if we got a TK, transition kindergartner, or a first grader that moves in after the year begins, then more than likely, if space is available, they're going to be enrolled. My concern is if this is getting into the second semester of the first grade year, they may or may not have the skills necessary to be successful in that program. So that's something that I want to make sure we consider when drafting this, when we come back with final language here. If we think that it might be too late in first grade for somebody who moves mid-year, or if just how we want to deal with that in first grade.
You've got language a little bit about that in there, where they can demonstrate proficiency.
Yeah, but that's, I think I have that for second, third, fourth, and fifth grade, but not for first grade. So we might want to, we just want to talk that through from an educational perspective. We want to set kids up to succeed. So maybe there's an assessment of skills, something like that. If you got second, third, fourth, or fifth graders, like you were saying, President Cooper, it's going to be hard for a child to be let into this program at that point. Not because we don't want them in the program, but again, because we want them to be able to be successful. And so they're going to have to demonstrate proficiency in both English and Spanish in order to be able to enroll in the program. And if they are unable to demonstrate that proficiency, then they're going to have to complete the opt-out form, and we're going to have to find a different setting for them.
Just so I'm clear on this clarification, so our intent is let's move forward several years. So in 6 years or 5 years, whatever, fifth grade, all fifth grade classes will be dual immersion at Linwood. Ultimately, the whole school, every single classroom will be.
Correct.
Okay.
And it speaks to the need to adjust this every single year with new numbers, new grade numbers, as we expand the program, roll it out.
So the school will be adjusted, but the policy will already be for K-5.
Okay. Well, I'll.
Wait. Offline.
I need to think on that too.
Yeah. Maria?
So the this excludes the Hamilton charter school, correct? The charter school.
The charter school would be entirely separate from this process.
Totally separate. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm waiting till we get to gifted and talented.
Well, let's talk about these qualifications that, at some point, I guess, a panel? I mean, I don't know. Is there an official United States bilingual, English-Spanish bilingual proficiency measurement that was the standard, or how are we going to come up with this? That's question one. And two is, I mean, we have systems now where we have students who aren't fluent in the other language, and we put them right in there, and we give them an acronym. why are we excluding those students because they can't meet this quote-unquote proficiency examination? Why don't we just give them an acronym and give them special resources and attention so they can attend? It would seem more equitable. Sorry, but just in case you had someone who really wanted to go.
Yeah. So let's look into that, and let's get you an answer when we do the second reading.
And I'm sorry, so I'll dive in with my questions, but you're not even done yet, are you?
No.
You got
No, not
more
quite.
slides?
Yeah.
And we're getting close, though.
But I mean, I read through it, so I know what I want to ask, but.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I have kind of three very key questions about really the whole approach, but I can wait, or you can use it as we go, but, okay.
Actually, it's a question regarding on the slide. For the dual immersion intra-district transfer, the application to opt out form, I see that in English. Is that created in Spanish yet?
I don't know if it's in Spanish yet. I think because it's in draft, we want to just have it in English until it's final, and then we'll convert it to Spanish.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so now we've got Novato students outside of the Linwood school boundary area. And this is essentially what this says is in TK, K, and 1, they just follow the district's intra-district transfer process. No significant changes. They follow the same policy. They follow the same timelines. At 2, 3, 4, and 5, the criteria that I outlined before is that they have to be able to demonstrate proficiency equivalent to their peers in order to enter into the program, so that we believe that they'll have the opportunity to be successful. And Derek will, so that's going to show up again with the inters, and we'll review it for all three of those groups to come back to next reading with either a better answer or a change.
Where we draw that line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what comes to my mind for where we draw that line is we have the teachers of the grade level that they're, so let's say it's a third grader. We have the third grade teacher do an assessment of those students based on where she expects her typical third grader to be in order to be successful in the program moving forward. Something along those lines, but that's not very specific. Nope. No, we don't. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. As far as so pretty much it's the same process that we outlined for the intras. It's important to note that before we even consider inter-district transfers, we have to do all the intra-district transfer processes. So my guess is, just a guess, educated guess, is that we won't get to that point with the Linwood Dual Immersion Program because it'll be full.
Okay. May I? We can't be the only school that's doing an immersion program. I'd be curious to know what are other, well, in Marin, but certainly not in the state, is what I'm saying. So, yeah, what other districts? I'd just be curious to read. I mean, somebody's already walked through the thorns with this. I'd like to know, what they've done, what were their hardships, what worked, what didn't work, so that we don't have to, step on the thorns. If somebody else has already been doing this, and I want to say there's a couple down in Southern California. When we were at CSBA, I went to a couple presentations where this was happening, and they had some amazing things to say, but I'm sure that there were some struggles as well. I'd like us to reach out to some other districts and find out, one, what does their board policy say? How did they handle these issues? What were the struggles? What were the pluses? Just for, I don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
And, if somebody else has already done this, let's take a look.
So this draft policy before you is based on our understanding of what the best practices are in reaching out to the people in our network. So,
Okay.
But we can always do a little more homework and double check it. I'm happy to do that to make sure we're on the right path. Now is the right time to make sure we're on the right path. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And if we can save, we spend an extra hour now, it's going to save us weeks
possibly
down the
could.
road. So
Yeah, headaches
happy
down the
to-
road.
Yeah, happy to do that analysis.
I want to challenge the idea that we're not to be drafting in Spanish on these trial applications and policies. We're going to wait till and say, here's the final decision in Spanish? I think I just want to understand, the question was, how come the draft isn't in Spanish of the current application? And I want to know why it isn't. It's a draft, which means public transparency, and bilingual people who speak one language or the other should have an opportunity to review it in both languages.
Yeah,
so that's just an opinion at this point, and it seems like the answer was, well, we want to get farther, and I'm challenged that assertion to maybe we should get drafts in Spanish sooner, maybe not at first, but sooner than final.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Yeah, let me, I think I kind of jumped around a little bit. Whoa, it's a good thing I have this in paper in front of me here. So I kind of talked about this already. So you got somebody who's outside of Nevada who wants to attend our program. They can apply through the regular inter-district process, same timelines as the rest of our inter-district people. They are going to be considered after all of the intra-district transfer stuff has taken place. Again, it's going to be easier to get in as a TK or a K or a 1. It's going to be harder to get in as a 2, 3, 4, 5 as written right now. And that's really all I got.
Trustee now.
So I guess I want to challenge this assertion that we're going to be full. And if we think we're going to be full, then why aren't we expanding to take students from other districts? Is there any way we could get it? I mean, so you're telling me there's not going to be room. It's in my line of work. Expand.
Right.
More customers. Why aren't we doing that?
As the people who visited the San Diego schools with me know, that expanding is one of the goals. I think the way you build a successful new program is you start small and then you grow. So we're going to start with 2 grades, 2 classrooms at each grade, and a TK. So TK, 2 Ks, and 2 1s. And over time, we're going to scale that up. We got to keep in mind how much space Linwood has when it's full. So we can't scale up so much that we end up being full by the time we get to 4th grade. So we got to think about the capacity of the school to be able to take the additional students. And then once it's full, President Cooper knows that I was pretty jazzed about that dual immersion Mandarin program I saw in San Diego. So I think we could fill that too. But another issue, Derek, along the way is staffing. We got to make sure that we're getting the right people and that we're staffing. So actually, we talked this morning about why not post the one vacancy we know we're going to have. Why not post it now or post it in January so that we're searching early for that one last person that we need for next year?
Rather than that, I think the wisdom is we're piloting. Let's learn to crawl before. But we will find a way to accept as many students from wherever, and if they want to go to our schools, we're going to let them in. So, all right.
And the goal is to get Linwood Elementary School to its maximum capacity with this program.
So, there's wisdom in piloting and getting on our feet before expansion. All right, appreciate that.
Gregory.
First, I want to say thank you, Trustee Nell, for espousing the idea of bringing more students into our district. I'm always fond of that idea. So I'm going to come from left field, and I know I have a tendency to do that sometimes. But, well, first off, I still don't see how the numbers, the grades work on this. It seems to me you have to write it for 1 year and then go through a process of updating it every year until we're finally phased in. So if you pull that back up, you would have to change it next year to say TKK2 and then the other part 3, 4, 5. That's my concern.
Yeah.
That's my first question.
So I have a different, I guess what I'm saying and what I think the policy as written now is saying is, once the program is fully operational, TK to 5.
Right.
If you move into Linwood area as a third grader, you're gonna have to
Okay.
demonstrate competency in order to be able to enroll in.
Turned on the other side of my brain. Okay,
Yeah,
got
yeah.
it. Thank you.
Unless.
As written, as written.
Okay.
Yeah.
My second question, and this is where I'm kind of really looking at this inside out. This is all an opt-out model. And for multiple reasons, I think we need to think about an opt-in model. One is it solves some of these problems, but also I'm fundamentally concerned that the uninformed parents who have just been going to Linwood, and they're just going to send their kid into Linwood, and whoa, what's this? And we're just going to end up with a lot of surprise parents who just, and they'll be annoyed and will be accused of lack of communication and all that kind of stuff. And instead, if we just say, and if we're going to be that full, and I agree, I think there's a lot of interest, let's do opt-in. You have to opt in to get to this. Now, that brings us to the third point. If you do that, why do we have a border for this campus? Why do we have a district, why do we have a border? Why do we have boundaries for this school? It's a magnet now. And does that mean that, so if it's opt-in and it's a magnet, we do not need boundaries, and now we just redraw the boundaries around it, so those neighborhoods now go other places? Because this is no longer a neighborhood school with this program. That's my, now I could be wrong, there's 7 of us, but that's my take. So I'm just putting that out there.
All right, thank you. Trustee Scott and then Trustee Miller.
Well, I was moving on just to highlight on page 2 of 6, there's also under the gifted and talented, it also says the superintendent or designee. I'm curious if before that also said board. I didn't see that here. Maybe it was up above. I'm just curious with the gifted and talented, have we also with these, any proposed changes, have we gone to, don't they have a leadership parent group? I would like us to reach out to those folks as well. I just recall several years ago, we had a standing room for a policy change that we did around the gate, and it became a nightmare. And I'm looking to avoid the nightmare.
Well, and also too, I'm not really clear on, I don't think we are yet, and I'm not saying we need to be yet.
Not.
But gate in general at Linwood, where's it gonna be?
Well, if we're gonna fill up, maybe that moves somewhere. I mean, I don't know. I just have some additional questions. Yeah, and this is just the first reading. I get that,
Yeah.
but I just
So-
have concerns around that.
Yeah, so to my knowledge, we didn't change any language regarding the gifted and talented portion of the policy. Yeah.
That's a good point. What are you referring to?
It's on a printed copy there.
Page what?
Okay, so page 1, where it says the board superintendent, okay, so that's not gonna subfill for the 6172?
No,
Okay.
that's just, we just added that notation per CSBA's recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Coming down the line, Trustee Butler.
All good comments, so thank you, trustees. Those are, I have nothing more to add to that. Vetting it through the dual immersion committee, have you done that?
They have not seen it yet. They'll see it at the next meeting.
Okay, yeah, I think they need to have.
Yes, absolutely.
The only comment I had, this is great discussion, but the title of this is administrative, it's the AR for MBPs for intra-district open enrollment. Why are we including a section about inter-district in that, under that
That's
title?
just included in my presentation, but not in the policy.
Was in this policy? I mean, it's just.
Yeah,
kind
so
of
I guess we have to look at the
tweak it somehow.
inter-district and see if we have to make any changes
Yeah.
to the inters.
Or
Yeah.
change the title or
Mhm.
whatever, include.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
They're,
So have a
they're
separate-
different, yeah.
Okay. Any other, no? Comments, questions, Trustee Millerick and.
So I am concerned, the comment we said, let's make this a magnet school. And I think Novato has had specialized programs like MSA or STEM or ROTC or our charter school. Those are all valuable, but I would like to make sure we approach the notion of a magnet school very carefully and make sure we understand. We've had a magnet school in this community and magnet programs. And sometimes those haven't worked out exactly the way we imagined them. So we need to just think through every possible twist and turn on that path. So that's the first point, and I don't have a recommendation. The second is we do have a GATE program that sits on the Linwood campus with some invested parents in that community. So are we thinking that that would stand separate from this and those children wouldn't be affected by the dual immersion requirement or not? And I don't know the answer. I think we need to do some thinking around how we're going to, I think staff needs to have a proposal that we can reflect on. I don't think that's a conversation we have very effectively in public. I think it needs some noodling.
Yeah,
taking part in the committee, that it came up, and I think at the time we were saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're there too, is that it was recognized as an issue, but we just didn't know the answer yet.
That's why I am today too.
To be honest, I think we kind of punted it saying, maybe we'll tackle that when the wave gets to second grade, and then we have a couple years to put it in place. But yeah, you know what I mean?
That certainly is one approach.
Right. I hear you.
I would say
keyword
that,
being punt for a year.
I would say that this is probably a good topic to work on with the GATE Advisory Committee and talk about how an English-only strand fits into on the campus of a dual immersion school. I mean, and try to make an informed decision based on work with both the committees.
And to facilitate that message to that leadership team, could we update the website to reflect, we have GATE leadership team members 2016-17 in case they want to go there, or could we just update that? And I don't know when the next meeting is, and that might be on there too. Just so if they're inquiring, they can go there and get that information. All right, Trustee No.
I want to echo somewhat of what Trustee Miller had to say about magnet school. I'm not interested in the school ever having the ability to prioritize another student over a student who lives within the Linwood district. I don't think that's something I've ever been open to. So and I think that's the direction we're headed in. If that changes, we can talk about it again. The GATE issue, my recollection is the reason it was originally located there was because there was room. But then again, I recognize the fact that it's been there for so long and you become part of that whole community. So I think the approach we're taking is correct. We should discuss it with everyone, and if it doesn't work there anymore, then maybe there's room somewhere else for it.
Okay. All right.
You're gifted and talented. You get at least two languages.
So, can you also clarify for me, are we going to have 2 readings, 3 readings of this? Do we have any?
3 readings.
3 on this? Okay, thank you.
3.
Yeah, timeline-wise, it's going to be best if we do 2. Just because we are getting into the intra-district process timeline and the kindergarten enrollment process. So, yeah.
Number 1 is the deadline on this?
So but at the same time, we're better off doing it right than doing it fast. So let's work on it for the second reading, and if we get there, we get there, and if we don't, then we gotta figure that out. I'd rather do it right than do it fast.
Final.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Trustee, good point though. Trustee Null?
I respect the timeline, and we have to, abide by that. I prefer more time and transparency and multiple language availability. But there's nothing to say that it's particular in a situation like this, that this board can't bring any of these policies back up and open and amend or append them in the future. So I think it's going to be a living document for a while.
So, as a discussion action item, I would entertain a motion, a first and a second on this to approve this as a first reading.
I'll move as a first reading.
Trustee Miller and Trustee Aguilar.
I'll second it.
And back as a second reading.
Yeah. Trustee Aguilar?
And I'll second it.
Second, first and a second, all in favor? That passes 7-0. Thank you very much, Chris.
You're welcome.
On to our last regular agenda. Oh, I'm sorry. Aaron, I beg your pardon. Come on up. No, and we'll see you hopefully at the second reading too. I'm so sorry.
It's all right. It's okay. Nothing earth-shattering. I just want to say thanks to Trustee Millerick for the sensitivity to the neighborhood schools issue and the sibling preference, because that can really mess with the demographics of a school once that gets established. So it is something very well. It created it was a can of worms. There were some real issues that can cause. The second is not in any capacity with NFT, just my own personal experience of being a student in a GATE program at what was then a bilingual school. And it was, I'm not sure it was the best. It sort of felt like a bit of a two-tiered system. And so it's something just to be aware of, that you have this division where you got most of the school speaking both languages, and then when you have one group that doesn't speak the language and is GATE, it kind of was a little, yeah.
Look forward to hearing more about your
Yes. All right, thanks.
Aaron, thank you. All right, now we'll go on to our item C, District Identity, Mission, Vision, Values, Motto, and Logo. And Leslie Benjamin will be presenting this. Exciting.
So, thank you again for having me this evening to talk about the district identity. We've been on a long road here, starting in March of this year, sort of rebranding ourselves and really showing, with the goal of building greater awareness in our district and showing infusing innovation and vitality. So we did a survey to parents and staff and community. I sort of want to go over that because we did make a couple changes to the mission and vision that I want to share with you. I mentioned this the last time I was up here, is that we had focus groups, we identified core values, we drafted a mission and vision, a motto. We had narrowed it down to 2 logos, and I'm going to talk about the surveys, and then tonight we're presenting the final drafts for your approval.
I can interrupt. Trustees, there's 2 handouts in front of you if you want to follow along. Thanks.
So I emailed the survey. One? Okay. I emailed the survey to all staff and the parents and community members that I had email addresses for, and I got 277 responses, 136 from staff, and 133 from the parents and community. And when asked the questions if they agreed with with the values of being innovative, equitable, caring, and inclusive and collaborative, 77.9% of the staff said absolutely or most agreed, and 62.5% of the parents and community absolutely or mostly agreed. I don't know if you can read that, but hopefully you have that. So within the survey, I put the proposed mission statement, which was engage, inspire, empower all students to pursue their ambitions and create their future in a rapidly changing world. And nearly 75% of staff thought that was terrific, and almost 65% of the parents and community thought that was really, they absolutely agreed or mostly agreed. However, after we reviewed the comments, we there was comments about, well, what about making our students good people and about their future and realizing their life goals? And so we updated it. And so the new proposed draft mission statement is engage, inspire, and empower all students in a rapidly changing world to realize their life goals and create a better and just future. So I'll let that sink in for a sec.
Who determines what's just? That's my only comment.
A little too, I mean, I like better and just futures, but I don't think our school district ought to be.
It's a little subjective, or I think. What do you think? Yeah, let's let her finish.
Okay, well, this is just something for you to think about.
It's getting
Okay,
late, I know.
we can certainly go back to the other one and you can approve that one. No problem. The proposed vision statement in the survey was we will provide an innovative and personalized learning experience for every student in a caring and supportive environment. You can read it yourself. 73% of the staff said absolutely, mostly agreed, and 65.5% of the parents and community absolutely or mostly agreed. However, again, we reviewed the comments, and a lot of the respondents didn't care for the word personalized learning, and also college and careers is used a lot. So we updated it. And here's another new proposed, which is with a caring and supportive environment, we will provide a dynamic and innovative learning experience for every student so they develop the knowledge and skills necessary to be successful and productive citizens. The second sentence is the same as we will engage parents, teachers, and our community to actively support our students' growth and learning. Okay? All right. Okay. The motto, engage, inspire, and empower. Just about 70% of the staff preferred that one. Nearly 60% of the parents and community preferred engage, inspire, and empower. And then interestingly, I included this because almost 28% of the parents and community liked learning today, creating tomorrow together. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Leslie?
Yes.
If you don't mind, I just some 101 marketing information on the surveys you're showing on this sort of brand identity stuff. It's considered an accomplishment if you've got over 50% of a select or demographic select in favor of what you're proposing, and so these numbers are.
Yeah, they're good numbers.
They're great.
Yeah. I think overall, everything that was presented in the survey was majority, like in the 70%, really agreed with it. Or liked it, I should say. And as far as the logos are, it was overwhelmingly, everybody liked the Unity logo the best. And so, I'm sorry? Yeah, well, I'm going to show you right now. So Kiosk couldn't be here this evening, so this is their part of the presentation, which is basically a recap of everything I've just presented with you. Our values, our mission. This is the updated mission, the new updated, which we can certainly change to go back to the old or do a combination. Our vision. This is the updated one, but again, our motto, engage, inspire, and empower. And here's the logo. So Kiosk came and met with Cabinet, I think, 2 weeks ago. Last week was very busy. And so we did play with the colors a bit. I don't know if you remember the other one, if you looked at it, it looked like you could see an X. And so they adjusted the colors, made some of them a little brighter, and made the purple in the middle, like the 6 and 12 o'clock. Yeah, so it's refined. The colors have been refined.
So
Okay, so there,
we keep interrupting you. I'm
I
sorry.
know,
Let's-
but that's okay. So the next steps.
Okay, trustees, could we let her finish, please?
Okay, so once this is approved, our rollout with the new logo and branding will begin in January. Of course, we'll work on it beforehand and then have it go public in January. And we'll start with the most visible things like the colors and logos on the website, reformat the letterhead and printed materials. Letterhead is mostly online. Business cards we print ourselves. Probably signage on our maintenance trucks. We've talked about doing swag, maybe little lanyards or T-shirts. We haven't really decided on anything. But, we've talked about swag just to kind of reinforce the use of the new branding. And then, again, once this is approved, Kiosk is going to provide us with brand guidelines so that we can pass out to all of our schools and for us to use in-house. Okay.
Thank you. That was very informative. And trustees, shall we talk about this? Trustee now, or Mac, I mean. Go ahead, Greg.
Good stuff. It's good to have an image now and some thought behind it. Just a couple questions though, and generic stuff. What would we say our kind of colors are? I mean,
Purple.
Yeah, it seems that way. Okay, it looks like it's purple, so I just want to ask if that's our color. So, and then I guess the sign out front gets this.
We would change that. Yeah.
The blue and
It
gold
gets
to
this.
purple.
Okay.
We would change that.
And then the trucks, and what, just a magnetic, and drop
Would
them on
think
it?
so,
And
yeah.
they stay white?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's all.
Or we could have
Go
them painted
purple?
purple and put a white. No, I'm just kidding. It would be a thing.
We know where they are.
Trustee no. Okay, Trustee Aguilar and then Trustee Scott.
With the vision, are we keeping it in the present tense? Is that what we want to do? So with a caring and supportive environment, we will provide or we provide?
I think we will.
The vision does project forward.
Okay.
Trustee Scott and then Trustee Shelley, did you have something?
Just in terms of preference. Just in terms of preference, the first one that we went on, I liked the prior.
mission?
Yeah.
Which one?
She likes this one.
The mission statement, yeah.
Yeah.
This one.
Yes, I don't like the justice one. Yeah, just in terms of preference. And are we talking about, in terms of this logo, changing not only the signage here, but signage, on our school sites? In addition to, I'm just curious, what all,
We hadn't really talked about changing the signs at the school sites. It's more about when they do their own, on their website or their own publicity, we'd have like our little logo or something on there.
so like when MSA puts something out, they have their own little logo. This is going to be there with it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So we would brand the schools so that they're NUSD schools as well as their Novato High or San Marin or Linwood or whatever. It would also have the little NUSD there. I don't envision changing signs.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Miller?
Back to my two comments. The first one, so on the vision statement,
Vision or mission?
vision. This is with a caring and supportive environment. In general, when I edit, I like to take the words like will out that are kind of tentative, or I like to be more directive or more active in my voice. So that's for us to talk about. I would have probably taken the word will out, but that's secondary. But if you read that sentence after the comment says, we provide learning experience. If you get rid of all the extra words, it says we provide learning experience. And I'm not sure our vision is to provide learning experience. That's like my job is to put the lesson out there, and it's the kid's job to learn it. It's a very passive statement about what we are doing for our community. It says we provide learning experience. And to me, the more important issue is we take responsibility for educating our own children. And I think that doesn't say that. I think that's, in my sense, it basically takes us out of being responsible for the consequences the way it's worded, and I don't like it because of that. Because I think we are responsible, and I think we ought to own it, right in this vision. So we provide, and I'm not sure how I would reword it. This is, 10 o'clock at night, and
Well, what came to mind is exchanging experience for environment.
yeah, but that's the same thing. It's we provide, that's like
Right.
saying I provide the swimming pool, you got to learn how to swim. It's the same, very passive. Our job is to just build the container. We don't take any responsibility for the consequence in our children's lives. And I think we do. I think this district does. That's where I am. So on that one, I would like to not approve the vision because of that, because I think it's weak. And then on the mission statement, which ends in a better and just future, that sounds to me like a political party statement, not a school district statement, and I don't like better and just future. I think it's too much like a political party and not enough like a service organization.
May I ask, do you like it up until their life goals? What if you ended it after
Yeah,
goals?
I like their life goals. I like their life goals because it really focuses on, the focus is on the student. So when the focus is on the student, I like it. When the focus is on we will provide, focuses on us, I don't like it.
How about the rest of the trustees? That's a good point. I'm in agreement with that. Rest of the trustees agree with that on the mission statement?
Oh, to just truncate it, write it, and create a better, get rid of the and?
Right, so it'd be engage, inspire, and empower all students in a rapidly changing world to realize their life goals.
I like that.
Simple, clean.
Less is more?
I totally agree with what you said. How about the rest of you? Well, trustee now.
How about this? I'll make a motion to accept the mission statement as amended.
Well, are we going to break out the,
If we're still, I'll make a motion, we can still discuss it, but I'm prepared to adopt it as amended.
I would, if we want it, Mr. President, if you'd like to handle it in chunks,
break it out?
I would second the motion, but I
Okay.
want your,
That's fine. So, yeah, so let's just do that. Vote on each one. How about that? So, yeah. So you're making a motion about the mission statement. Can you remake it, please?
I move that we adopt the mission statement as written with the amendment that we remove and create a better and just future.
Okay. And a second, trustee Millerick, right?
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. And before we carry on any further, I'd like Aaron Fix, I know you have some thoughts on this that might help us.
There's sort of two parts, so I'm not sure if the second part isn't better for after, but nevertheless, I'm here. So the first was just what you've already done it, which is the personalized. I think that sort of sets up a, is it not working? Pull it up higher? Okay. Gotcha. Removing the personalized, I think it just sets up a kind of an unrealistic expectation, and you guys are sort of saw that. I mean, we have teachers that have 155 students, and they can't create a personalized experience for every single one. And then the other is sort of more to the union issue, is just that we're spending $50,000 on this, and one of the proposals that came to the negotiating table was cuts to teachers for the sum of $25,000. So it's just a little bit hard when we're ready to spend what adds up, right? $50,000 doesn't seem like that much, but it adds up. And especially when what comes back to us is you need to cut stuff from yourself for $25,000, you know? And we spent $24,000 on a 3-day retreat for admin. So it's just kind of, you know, the priorities don't make me thrilled. Thanks.
Yep, got it.
All right, so let's bring you back. Jim thought of Superintendent Hogaboom thought of a good, maybe a solution. Are we thinking of changing, anyone here want to change every one of these, or is it just the mission statement that we want to change?
I'm not happy with the vision statement, and I'd like you to
Okay.
talk about it some more, or.
So then we'll just go through each one.
Yeah. How about we adopt our draft?
Sorry, say it
How about
again.
we do something, we adopt our, or we move forward with what the board's input is at this point. If there's some desire on behalf of the staff and the other stakeholders who have worked on this process, I think they need to hear back from us maybe before we take a final action. Is that kind of like what I'm hearing? Because all I was trying to do was just trying to get the project, you know, as much of it approved.
How about this?
and-
How about if we you bring it forward, bring it back to us
Yeah.
with our
With-
comments in mind?
Mm-hmm. Bring it back again with everything, the values and everything, with the revised vision,
Yeah, I
with
mean,
this
with
new
the comments that
mission.
have been made, I think.
Well, I think I would like an opportunity to speak about the vision statement once we've determined the process, the entirety of the process. I don't know if we've,
That's what I'm
I
saying,
think
Derek.
this board should take them all on sort of one at a time and maybe give some feedback to staff if there's some pushback on the part of staff and the stakeholders to have us not just approve it all tonight. I'm okay with that, of us not doing a final approval, but I do want an opportunity to speak to each one of these tonight.
Because I'm thinking that would be a good thing. Let's all make our comments, and then they go back and do some work, and they'll bring it back.
So I'll withdraw
Then we'll-
I'll withdraw my motion.
Very well.
And instead, have it be,
Discussion.
more along the lines of direction to staff or, information for staff to consider, feedback.
How about this? How about we go through, okay, let's do this. Let's go through the mission statement. Everybody chime in, and staff will take notes, and then we'll just go through each one.
I chimed in on the mission statement.
There. Anybody else? Any comments? Maria, Debbie, Greg?
I agree with what they're saying. Shorter is better, so I like shortening it at the word goals. I want to just point out, I love the fact that the first 3 words, well, with the word and, are right there with the whole tagline too. So I think that ties in, and that's the 3 words that go up here.
And Maria, great, thanks, Greg.
That's it.
Maria, do you see where we are? Just to make sure. Okay, and are you good? Okay, so just want to make sure. Mission
So
statement?
I'm hearing that motto is okay, mission taking off.
Let's
Yep,
go
yeah, yeah.
through the vision now. Let's do vision. Yep. Ross, you want to start off?
My 2 cents on vision is when I read this, by taking out all the extra words, I read, we, Nevada Unified School District, we provide a learning experience. And the second sentence says, they, meaning the students, they develop the knowledge. And to me, that is, we're providing the swimming pool, they have to learn how to swim, and I do not think that is the message we want to send our people. I think that's like, I taught the lesson, he didn't learn it, too bad, it's an F.
Do you have any idea, any suggestion what that would, okay, they'll wordsmith it.
We all do.
Staff's got a suggestion, but I got
one too.
That's my concern.
Where's the original one? All right.
May I, or you can go on?
Yeah, let's go on down the line. Just Derek?
Okay, so it's not perfect in my eyes, but it's very close, and I really appreciate the hard work everyone's done on it, and these are always awkward moments. So for me, I agree with Trustee, first was Trustee Aguila, and then later Trustee Millerick, who wanted to remove the word will in the first line. So I think it should say, with a caring and supportive environment, we provide a dynamic and innovative, I would delete learning experience and replace it with the word education, so that we provide a dynamic and innovative education for every student. I would delete so it says for every student to develop the knowledge and skills necessary to be successful and productive citizens. I don't know if you got that, Leslie, but
I did.
pass it along, but I think that's, from listening to Trustee Millerick and Trustee Aguila, and I think
like it.
I agree with where they're going, and
Yeah.
this would be the way to approach it.
Good job, Trustee Nell. Trustee Aguila?
Yeah, so with caring and supportive environment and USD, I agree with getting rid of will and provide. The word provide, I agree, it's passive, and maybe create. I'm not sure, but create sounds a little more like we are doing our part. I like getting rid of learning experience and putting education, and students to get rid of so they, instead add to. And second paragraph, I don't like that we will engage parents. Well, who are we to engage parents? That's our goal, that's our vision, that's what we would like in a perfect world. But we don't engage parents. If anything, we provide opportunities for parents to get involved and to be engaged. But so I would get rid of the will, we will, and maybe add NUSD with we. And other than that, I think it's great.
So I'm a little torn because I've had to write a bunch of these in the world, and they always have the word will, but and I apologize because I was saying it has to have the word will, but now I'm thinking about it, why am I so wed to that? So I think in the name of shortening things, I like that. I'm thinking get rid of we, let's put our name in there. Yeah. So. No, I'm in the first paragraph. So with a caring and supportive environment, well, okay. Okay. Well, I'm right, with a caring, supportive environment, NUSD, and then this is where it gets tricky. If you take out the word will, now you need an active verb. And, I get provide sounds a little soft, but, and I just don't know what that word is, but I'm okay with provide, or NUSD provides a dynamic and innovative learning experience for every student. And so they develop the skill, yeah. In the end, it doesn't shorten it much. I'm a big fan for short, wherever we can do. I didn't change it much. I just put an NUSD to replace the word we. I got rid of the word will, put an S at the end of provide, and that's it for now. But I'm open to other ideas that shorten it.
You left in learning also?
And I left in, I'm sorry, education. That's a yes, I completely agree. Innovative education. Get rid of learning experience, education. Thank you.
What about the second paragraph here?
Wait, hold on, what?
NUSD will engage, or how do you want to word that?
I say, let's put it in both.
May
NUSD
I,
in both.
as you were talking, I was going back, what is the definition of a mission and the vision? And the vision is where we are going.
Yeah.
Where
So that's
are
the
we
word
going?
will is back
so
in.
So I think that's why the word will comes into it, is because it's not where we are now, it's but where we want to be. I just wanted to put that out there. And so the mission explains what we aspire to be and why we exist, in the ultimate goal we want to accomplish. So if that gives any clarification.
And a vision is how we get there.
Yeah.
So then leave the word will?
I'm torn between shortening and harmony. And sticking with my guns, and that every mission, or I'm sorry, vision statement I've ever had has the word will in it, one way or another, or something like that.
Let's compromise and get one will out.
Can we get How about, so I'm serious.
Hold on, I'd like to hear from Shelley and Deb. You're Trustee Scott.
I am not a wordsmith person at all. I hate this, hate this, hate this. I'm a number cruncher. This isn't my forte. The few things that I can add, I don't like learning experience. I would prefer education. We're in the educational business. I mean, it just, there's certain things that I don't like, but I kind of want to see how you're wordsmithing it at the end to see if I like it. So there's been so many different things tossed in and out. I'm not sure where we're at.
Yeah, no.
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
We'll bring it back. Yeah, not a problem.
Second reading.
I don't like caring and supportive environment. Are we not gonna, if we're not caring and supportive, does that mean we're not gonna do these things? I like, we will provide a dynamic and innovative education for every student to develop the knowledge and skills necessary to be successful and productive citizens. We will engage parents, and I would leave that will in there.
We or NUSD?
We. I think it needs to be we.
Well, if I may, I think caring was put in there because that's one of our values, and just wanted to
Oh.
put it out there. I'm just
Yeah. So
clarifying.
I could go, if we want to look at shortening it, I'm
It
would
shortens a
eliminate
lot.
caring and supportive environment.
I hear that. And
All right, so I'm in pretty much agreement with what Debbie just said. I think we'll just, I would like to suggest that we come back. And I agree, we're not words. Let's let
It-
the experts do it.
Yeah, it's not my forte. I hate it.
No, that's good.
Okay, what about the
Go to the
low-
tape, the videotape.
Yeah.
I've tracked it. I've got it. I like your suggestions. I think that it makes it better when you have the conversation
Punchier.
about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
On coming down one of the streets in San Francisco, there's a logo that looks very much like ours. And I'm kind of thinking, not that
It's Sophie. SoFi.
SoFi?
Yeah, the student loan.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it is. I had the same thought. It's on the side of the hangar at Oakland Airport. SOFI. I'm pretty sure that's it.
So, other than that, I like it. It looks a lot like the one we got, except with.
And mission. Okay, so trustees, one sector. I'm gonna suggest, are we all good with the motto?
Yes.
I'm
I think
not.
we all, oh, you're not?
No, but I'll go with everybody else. I like learning today, leading tomorrow. It speaks education, engage, inspire, empower on its own. Does not tell me anything about education in there, for me.
I like, so was that what it used to be before tonight?
No, learning today, leading tomorrow was one that we had a couple meetings ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my 2 cents, but if
Didn't
nobody
fly.
else is on board with that, I'm fine with that. Yes.
I like that.
Well, hold on, you have to look, you wanna go
We'll
through the
flip it for
history
you.
of that, so
No.
we don't get all,
Because Tom doesn't like it.
I think.
no, I like them all, really, but
Well,
what was the history that you proposed to staff, you proposed?
yeah, well, we put those out to, where was that? Let's go back.
That was in an August meeting, I think. Presentation.
Yeah. There was 3, and then when I put out the survey, it was just the 2, engage, inspire, and empower in learning today, creating tomorrow together.
So, I
And
mean,
I
there,
like-
go ahead.
I like learning today, leading tomorrow.
It was leading at one point, yeah.
I like.
It was originally learning today, leading tomorrow. And then it morphed into learning today, creating tomorrow together.
Some of the feedback was.
Stronger.
You turn the mic.
Okay, you can't, yeah, so it was originally learning today, leading tomorrow, and it's like, well, we're not here to create leaders out of everybody, because not everybody can be a leader, so then we turned it into learning today, creating tomorrow, and then we thought together, because
'Cause
that's
we're a
all
district.
unified and stuff. But then
Okay.
most people didn't like it anyway, they liked the other one, so there we go.
Okay,
Sorry.
back to engage, inspire, and empower? Yes?
Yeah, I appreciate.
Everybody?
What did it used to say in our
Okay, so I'm going to move forward. with-
Davis.
Call to action. Jokey.
I think,
No, I think we're good. Here's what I'd like to suggest. Do we have a motion still on the table, or did you withdraw it? You withdrew it? Okay.
On the report, we haven't discussed yet, but I would like to just maybe have some remarks on the logo and next steps.
Okay.
I think that, I like the next steps. I think that's the right thing to do. The logo itself is, I think, is what we're trying to accomplish tonight is general approval of it. Now, application of this logo is the next step, and that is what the brand identity guide that is coming forward. So I would reserve a lot of effort around discussing, it looks like the SOFO logo, how about this, how about that, color, what truck we're gonna put it on. All that is application and implementation. That we should analyze through the use of the brand identity guide. There is no budget for implementing this, so we'll probably focus on the digital aspects of it. So we should keep that in mind. So
Good.
that's why I didn't really want to get it, I just want to be careful at this point. We haven't seen the brand identity guide. That's in the next step. So
Thank you for
Glad,
educating
so
us
that's,
on that.
I'm awaiting that and approaching it from the zero budget, digital implication. And finally, I'd like to say the reason we're doing this is not an illustration on how to spend, prioritize money, whatever. This is to create communication tools for an organization with close to 8,000 customers, 400 employees, I don't know, in a community of 55,000. This is to help us get better organized and to communicate better. It's just, it's a logical thing to do, and it is free at the price that we have been, that it is being given to us in a comparative sense. A lot of work has been donated, and we desperately need this, so we're doing good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for those good comments. I think, does the board remember if it was, does 50,000 seems high? I don't think this was that much. 24,000.
The speaker
It was
brought the
24.
price.
It was 24,000.
So I stand corrected, the speaker had 50, so at 24,
I just
mean,
thought,
we
let's
should be
be
very
accurate.
thankful.
Yeah. Okay. So if the board will allow me, I'm going to suggest, we've agreed on, with corrections on mission, values, motto, and logo. We haven't agreed on the vision. So could we give staff direction to go ahead with the things we have agreed upon and then come back with vision? How does that stand?
Bring it all back, I think. I mean, I don't think we're
Just
gonna change
put it all out and,
Motion to bring back.
It's 10 o'clock at night, and
so yeah.
I don't-
then we're
I-
just-
I don't want to stop anything, but I don't think you can move until it's all done. I mean, we're gonna start painting trucks? No, we're gonna wait for the next.
No, we're not going to paint trucks today.
no purple trucks today.
No. What would, let me ask your opinion. What would you prefer from us tonight?
We can bring it back.
Okay.
We can bring, I mean, if you're okay with the logo, at least I can tell them, okay, this is the logo and go with, can we start with the guidelines? Even though you haven't approved it yet, I think we're all in agreement about the logo.
If we spent 5 cents on this, or $25, or $25,000, to get the value out of this, we have to have an execution plan. That's the next step.
Okay.
So we're the expert in the room right now.
I just think that staff's got enough refinement out of this conversation at this point that I thought we were farther along, but since we're not, I think we keep it as a package deal.
Okay.
Right
Yeah.
now, we'll approve it all at the same time until such time we can determine we can break it up.
All right, great. Thank you, board. So I think we're going to leave that one and ask them to come back with corrections or other ideas. And with that, we've come to the end of tonight's meeting. I would like to adjourn the meeting in honor of one of our fine teachers, excellent leaders, someone who the students at San Marin High School looked up to, was very respected, And he came before us on many occasions, and I'd like to honor him by adjourning this meeting to Craig Pitty. Thank you. Good meeting is adjourned.